1 minute.
Craig. I had to borrow that for a minute. Oh.
Okay, Denise. Welcome, and I want to call to order the City of California City Council meeting this Tuesday, July 24th, 2018. At this time, I would like for you to all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing for the invocation. All right.
Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father God, we thank you. We thank you for America today. We thank you for this place we take every week. We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. We make a pledge to this country. We make a pledge to each other that we do our best. May we come together. Remember that we are the people. We are the people of the United States of America. No matter where we come from, where we've been, what we've done, we are the people of the United States of America. May we strengthen ourselves as we come together, forget our difference, and serve your nature, your purpose, and each other. Grant to us strength to be the best that we can be. But getting our indifference, we make a pledge that we'll support California City, California. We'll support California. We'll support the United States of America. We'll support our president and for these Stanford. Give us courage and strength and integrity to know who we are. One nation under God. Men who thought it out, they prayed it out. They make a commitment that we'll be a strong nation. We are. Because of that commitment, may we again, as America, make a commitment to God and to each other that we'll do our best. We will pass Proposition C, we'll pass it, and we'll do our best to make these men and women who fight our fires and the policemen, give them the backing they need to serve this community. That we may not the second, but the best in America. For we are the California City, California. There's no other city like us. Together we stand, divide we fall. Heavenly Father, give us strength to stand. Give us strength to know who we are. We are more than enough. You are the great I am. Grant to us, Lord, courage and knowledge to be all you have to be. And we do thank you for these men and women who serve in the night, those who serve around the world, defend this nation. No matter how many mistakes we have made, we are still somebody under God. You understand, Father? If we don't make mistakes because we're not doing that, together we stand. We may fail, but we stand anyhow. Forgive each other, doing our best. God bless America. And may God bless every citizen of America. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you roll call us in?
Councilmember McGuire.
Here.
Paris.
Here.
Stump.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gomez.
Here.
Mayor Wood.
Here. Before I'm asked for a motion to adopt the agenda, I need to announce that we are removing from this agenda tonight consent calendar item number 2. And we are going to open public hearing 1, but continue that to the next meeting. So with those changes, I'm looking for a motion to
Make that
adopt.
motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do you have any reports or late communications?
Yes, ma'am. All from JM Powers. Let's see. July 16th. City Attorney's impartial analysis of Measure 6 partial tax delinquency rate is gross error Part 2. July 17th. 6 claim by Cal City Safe needs sources and verification of accuracy. July 18th. City's ill-fated purchase of 500,000 problem-plagued KME fire truck was entirely avoidable. And that's it.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Appreciate it. At this time, we'll go into presentations, and City Treasurer Middleton, and maybe you can pass on what you just told me, too. This is the June 2018 Report of Investment.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, staff, and our gracious public. Our funds for the month of June were a little bit better than we expected, but it's quarter closeout, so I expect that's accounted for most of what we had. Plus, we've been getting some generous medical marijuana business license fees and whatnot in, a little bit more than I expected. So right now, the total for the city's finances as of 30th of June was $15,461,000. I would also like to mention that our unfunded liability obligation for CalPERS has come due, and with coordination of the city manager and finance and our personnel person, I moved $1 million down from LAIF so that we could pay that, and finance and the personnel person paid that obligation today. And that's all I have, ma'am.
Thank you very much. That's a big deal in that unfunded pension. Thank you. Very good deal. All right. Moving on to staff announcements. We'll start off with Police Chief Hurtado, department updates, and I'm sure you got quite a few for us tonight.
Unfortunately. I'll give you the basic stats, and then I'll get into the big one. Year to date, I've responded to 12,285 calls for service. And since we've met last, we responded to 745 calls. We made 14 arrests, 12 of them for felonies. Our reported felonies for the last 2 weeks is 24, and we've arrested and solved half of them. So we're doing as much as we can with what we have. So over the last 2 weeks, we've had 2 assaults with deadly weapon calls, 9 burglary calls, 2 domestic violence calls. And there's a lot of questions asked, how busy our police department is. I'm going to kind of just go over highlights on last Saturday. At 12:30 in the morning, our officers responded to a report of a burglary in progress on Cal City Boulevard. Homeowners reported that while they were asleep, 2 people broke into their home. Our officers responded, got there quickly and fast, that they even captured 2 suspects as they're in the backyard of the residence trying to leave. Throughout the day, it was actually, for call volume, was fairly low, only 48 calls. That started off the day. Several assault with deadly weapon calls that day. Threats, lots of child custody arguments throughout the day. A couple of the burglaries were reported, one on 101st, one on Jacaranda. Our officers respond call to call. I'll give you an example. That evening at 6:25, officers responded to a person down call on 95th Street. Our officers were able to arrive there quickly, started CPR on the victim, and I believe our fire chief may have some updates on what happened after that. After they finished that, they went to another burglary call. They went to go check the welfare on somebody that called in that was concerned about one of their family members. 30 minutes later, they get a call of a possible stabbing. Our officers responded, had reported that somebody was actively being stabbed. They went into the house. The apparent suspect was not the suspect, was concerned about a family member that was had some mental health issues. And as this has been explained to the officers, the person who was in need of mental health had a screwdriver in their hand and charged at our officers down a hallway. They sidestepped into a room. Our officers, half a second from a different story. The person barricaded themselves in a bedroom, tried to negotiate to come out. They wouldn't come out. They ended up formulating a plan, both of them. Kicked in the door. The person was still armed with a screwdriver, wrestled with them, and that person was taken to mental health for evaluation. About 15, 20 minutes average is the call to call. We were short. We're down to basically no officers available for calls. I'd come out, assist our patrol officers, end up trying to chase a located burglary suspect that left North Edwards and believed to be en route to Cal City. 48 calls, that's pretty slow. On Sunday, and I know that there's been a lot of questions about the times, so I'll give you the times on the important call. At 7:33 p.m., we start receiving 911 calls of either fireworks or shooting in the area of North Loop and Corwin. Within 2 minutes, the dispatcher received the information and dispatched the call at 7:35. At 7:37, 2 minutes later, our first officer arrived in the 9,000 block of Lupine Loop. Found 2 victims, apparent gunshot wounds. Our officers worked on them. Notified our paramedics that it was safe for them to enter a hot crime scene. They arrived at our timestamp is 7:45. The youngest victim, 12-year-old Trinity, was pronounced dead at the scene. Her uncle, Michael, was transported to a local hospital. He later died in surgery. We are still actively searching for the gunman. We now have new information that, according to eyewitnesses, that this was not a drive-by shooting. The person drove up to the house, was there for around 5 minutes before some type of confrontation took place. We know now that he retrieved a firearm from the trunk of the car and opened fire in the house. We believe that the younger victim was struck when several of the rounds penetrated the front wall of the house, and Trinity was struck in the front room. We're still looking for our shooter in the vehicle, a 2009 Nissan Altima. Looking for Desmond Perry, 32 years. And I'm sure everyone in this room has seen a Nixle, a Facebook, a news article, or something. So if you have any information, please give us a call. I want to thank Kern County DA's crime lab came out, their forensics unit, to help process the scene. California Department of Corrections, they're a good resource. They're good neighbor. It was kind of chaotic scene. They responded, 6 of their special investigation units, to help secure the scene. There's a lot of emotions flowing that night, and it was very helpful to have extra officers there on the scene to help control it so we can do a thorough investigation. California Highway Patrol responded 2 cars to help circulate for our suspect vehicle. And we notified Kern County Sheriff's Department to also be on the lookout. Like everywhere else, Kern County, throughout the state, there's a large shortage of law enforcement. Everyone is facing very large shortages of law enforcement staff. Kern County Mojave units were busy on their own in-progress calls. They were not able to send somebody immediately, but they helped look for our getaway car. And hopefully sometime in the next or in the near future, I'll have some good updates. But for now, that's it.
Thank you very much, Chief. I think everyone in this room, everyone on this council, and everyone watching this, and everyone that's aware really appreciate everything that you guys have been doing and gals on this case. And please extend our appreciation to all of these agencies as well. Thank you very much, and I'm sure you'll get the person you're looking for.
And just to add on to that, our officers and all the officers there used great restraint. It was, I watched a lot of it, and the officers used some incredible restraint to help maintain the situation and de-escalate it. And because had I been working, there have been a lot of people going to jail. And they did, you guys did a rocking job. You guys did a rocking job. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Goodell, Fire Department update.
Well, first of all, we grieve with the victims' families. And, you know, my and our prayers, I hope, would be, and I'm sure will be with them. For the last, since we were together last time, mayor, council members, staff, other persons, constituents, good evening. Code enforcement, we've had 7 new cases. We closed 12 of them. 2 citations were issued, 9 notice of violations, and we received 5 complaint forms. I'm going to just, without making it the center of attention, circulate some photos of some before and after community improvement projects, we'll call them. And if you wouldn't mind, you can look at them and maybe pass them down to staff people. I'll do it, buddy. I got it. So those two illustrate and me to proclaim we're doing a good job at keeping the city in a good state of affairs and trying to improve things where we can, and being successful at it. For the fire department side, we've had 2 fires, 93 EMS/rescues, 5 no fire hazards, 13 good intents, and 3 false alarms. And year to date, we're at 1,585 calls, well on our way to 3,300 total calls. So we're about twice as busy as we were 7 years ago. So we're in a similar situation as the police chief said. And we too are Kern County itself is going through some staffing issues in the state of California, and I can't speak nationally, but it wouldn't surprise me. We're doing the best we can with what we got and doing a good job of it.
Chief, thank you very much, and pass on our appreciation for all the good works being done as well.
I will, and thanks.
Thank you. Public Works Director Platt.
Mayor, Council, and Public. So the mid-month report for the Water Department is 5 mainline repairs, no blowouts, which is always nice to have. 19 services has been replaced, 3 meters, and the 79th Street project, the main intersections are paved, and they should be starting soon working on the N-track part of that replacement. As anybody goes down North Street, we see that the crew's moving from the intersection of Poppy, heading kind of, I should say, northeast with the 12-inch section. There they'll be continuing on to the existing 12-inch, which is several hundred feet past the intersection of Hacienda. That's the major part of that replacement, and then the second phase of that is to actually go all the way down Poppy and tie it into Yerba. And that will complete the 12-inch all the way through the city in the center core, and then from there we will probably start on the 12-inch that actually runs down CCB, which feeds all the commercial and residential along CCB and both sides of the city. We're working on the design right now on the DAC, which was the Disadvantaged Communities grant we received, in the process of doing our IRWIM plan for the Fremont Basin. So those projects are in design right now. Hopefully by the end of the fiscal year we'll have those wrapped up and closed out, and that was roughly $160,000 grant that we got to do that complete. So once we do that, we'll submit those projects within the IRWIM and include those in the fundings that we get back from the state, actually to do water projects. So those will be 2 nice projects we have that are roughly 80,000 feet of pipe plus on the north and south side of CCB to replace all the main and infrastructure and service lines. The forming of the basin, the IRWIM, is actually getting close to completion. The salt nutrient plan, the final draft is getting ready to be submitted for review to Lahontan. We'll see where that part of it goes, but we're actually getting to the end of the journey where the whole planned basin will be done, and then obviously there are other things to start creating, which is the groundwater protection for the city. The LAMP was approved this year, so we're actually moving forward, hopefully, to protect the city's water and the whole basin's water from outside sources. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. We got a lot done. Do you know on the 12-inch line that's just about completed how much pipe was used, roughly?
On the one,
the first 12-inch. Yeah, well, no. Oh yeah, that one.
The one we just finished, the 79th,
okay,
and we've just started the North Loop process, so there's only a couple hundred feet. So we had the major intersection we did and crossed on Poppy.
Yes.
And it's just now going. The other project was roughly about 80,000 feet, the original one.
Okay.
Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, about 80,000 feet of mainline was put in, and that was from Randsburg, Mojave, through just, it ended just one track short of Hacienda,
and then
all on the north side.
Thank you. And then one other, you mentioned Randsburg, Mojave. We have a start date?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, last Monday.
Oh, okay.
So the notices have gone out. The grinder was brought in, and we kind of saw it leaving town. So we got some calls in to try to find out actually where did the grinder go. And this week was supposed to be their second part of their start date within their project. So they only have so many days to go, and I haven't heard anything of why they would have pulled out.
Okay.
Our tank cleaning, I can tell you, they won't be here for several months because we gave them the water temperature within the water tanks, and 89 degrees was above standard and code for diving in. So they have to postpone it until the water temperature in our water tanks actually drops a bit.
Thank you for that update. Appreciate that. Before I go on to our interim finance director, I see that Mary Johnson's back with us, and we want to welcome her back. Welcome back. And now we'll go into the interim finance director, Mr. Sadijian.
Is it on now? Is it on? As I was saying, May financial is already out, and I apologize for the delay, but we had to make sure that it is fine. And June financial will be out by this coming Monday, or at the latest Tuesday, at end of July. We are going to do that. As of August, we are going to go back to the normal schedule. So, for example, for July, we will have it by mid-August and move on as before. Currently, we are closing the books of June, and remember, June is the last month of the fiscal year. It is called also period 12. Now, the computer system in this city is very good. It is just like any other big city or first-class city. It has period 13, 14, and even 15. What period 13 does for us, when we close period 12, which is the whole year, still we go back to our own department, and we are going to do our own internal audit for the whole year to see if we have missed any transaction or if there is anything missing or any correction or anything. That transaction, we enter that to period 13. So the auditors will understand that this is after we close month of June. Then period 14 is reserved for the auditors when they audit the city and when they come up with their final finding any errors or anything. At that time, they correct everything, and then they put it in period 14. So all this period will show exactly, what we have been doing, and it is going to be very transparent. And in this case, the auditors actually, they have already, I'm in contact with them, and they have asked a very long list of the documents that we have to provide for them, and they will be coming in September, and they are targeting to finish the audit by December. Something that I could add is in the old time, the auditors were not in the danger of being sued or whatnot, but nowadays, because they can be sued, they are very, very careful of their audit. So what I'm trying to say is no matter what, any audit agency, to protect themselves, they go to a very careful audit, and that is why that they want like 100 documents, transactions, and all these things that we are going to be providing for them. And when they give us a clean bill of audit, they have done their homework as well.
Well, thank you very much for that very thorough update, and I know you're going to be very busy for a while. At Parks and Recs today, I don't see Brenda, so we'll move on. But before we go to you, Bob, I'd like to have Denise talk about the current status on the election, if you don't mind. Sure. Denise?
Thank you, Mayor. As of today, we have a total of 1,188 ballots that we have received. 34 are still pending the signature verification. At the 1,188, we have 200, which are deemed snags, which are ones that we've sent letters out to these citizens asking them to come either re-sign their ballot because it doesn't match, or they happen to not sign it at all. So just about 1,200 that we've received.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Stockwell, thank you.
Just to comment a little bit about Keith's report. One of the advantages in paying the PERS unfunded liability up front is that we will save over $40,000 by paying it at the beginning of the year rather than doing it monthly, so it's certainly worth the effort to do that. The mayor and I attended the East Kern Economic Development, what's the last part of it?
East Kern Economic Development?
Alliance, there we go.
Yeah.
And we discussed a grant program that had been initiated several months ago. They had received, Kern County received notice that the grant was unofficially approved. And so the meeting was held to discuss, to begin the process of implementing the grant, which would hire 3 economic development planners to work in East Kern County over the next 2 years, as well as create the maker spaces in 3 different areas of it. And as a result of that, the recommendation that was made by the committee, or by all those present, was that one of the individuals would serve Cal City, Mojave, Rosamond, and Boron, and then Tehachapi and Ridgecrest would get 1 each. And the 3 maker spaces would be allocated again in the 3 areas, and so that remains to be seen where that would be. That's a space where tools, technology, programming, 3D printers, things like that are made available for encouraging business development and preparation. And so over the next 60 days, the interviews will happen. Hopefully we'll have somebody on board, and we'll have somebody that, at least for that period of time, can focus much more closely on what we need to be seeing here in Cal City, in concert with staying in touch with the Air and Space Museum, as well as Rosamond and Boron. And so it looks like there will be some good things come of that. For the first time, we will have somebody that is truly dedicated for this end of the county. And it was interesting to find out everybody knew our names. Sometimes we wonder. But it was interesting to see the county, in this case, definitely pulling forward with a program that is going to pay off on the east side of the county. And so it was good to participate in that. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you very much, sir. Now we move on to AB 1234 updates. Anyone?
None.
Nothing. Madam Mayor, I'll be at the East Kern Air Quality Control Board meeting on Thursday.
Okay. And thank you, Bob. You just gave my AB 1234 report. Perfect. Thank you so much. So at this time, we'll go to civic community organization announcements. I'd like to start off, if I could, for a civic announcement. We are looking for planning commissioner folks, candidates that want to be on the planning commission. We have multiple positions that are coming open, and we really desperately need to get some folks to volunteer. So the way you do it, not to put more burden on Denise, but you get with Denise and you get an application. There may be some in the lobby for applications for the planning commission, and then we get you together, and then I interview. We really, I have no one to interview, not even somebody to go tag you're it. So please, please, think about that. And it's and if you go on to our municipal code, you will find out what the requirement, what you'll be doing as a planning commissioner, what you'll be paid as a planning commissioner, and other vital information. There's no special skills, just a desire to serve your community and work with the other planning commissioners and our general plan and stuff like that. So moving on, thank you very much for listening, and please, if you know people that you might be interested that aren't here, send them to us. We really appreciate it. Okay, any other civic community organization announcements from anyone in the audience? No one's rushing up. Are we done?
I'd like to give a PSA for HOVs. I read not too long ago that a writer was almost decapitated by a wire hanging across a property, I guess. If the folks want to identify their properties, what you do is you paint the top of the pole purple. Purple is universal in the United States because it can be seen by colorblind people, and it is recognized as no trespassing. So please don't hang wires and put signs on them because the wind will blow them off. And if you decapitate somebody, you can be charged because it is your property. So please, if you're going to mark them, put post, put a phone number on one of them, but mark the tops of the post have to be purple because colorblind people can see it.
Thank you very much. Good information to know. Anyone that has that situation, that's very good. Any more community, public, civic announcements? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to public business of the floor. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the City Council on any matter not on this agenda and over which the City Council has jurisdiction. Please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
David Stafford, California City. Approximately 6 weeks ago, I brought you guys a development paper, and we passed it around. The deal was at that time, Mr. Stockwell had just got to get it that day. So that was the first time he said he had seen it. 6 weeks later, ladies and gentlemen, are we going to get any feedback on what we proposed to the city on our business development plan, or did we do this for nothing? In other words, just standing there spinning our wheels. The next thing I would like to have answered by the council, when I was in Oklahoma, they passed their medical deal. Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, Kansas, that whole area up there, that's where I was for the last month. I keep getting these phone calls, people telling me that the city is acquiring approximately $30,000 to $40,000 for these plan check fees on these medical buildings, these marijuana buildings. And if that's true, I'd really like, because I know we don't have anybody in town to check it, so that's a lot more money going out of town to somebody if that's the case. That's like strong-armed robbery. I'm sorry, you know, we got a lot of people that's trying to do a lot of things in this town, and you can only bleed somebody so far. I mean, we've had a lot of applicants. How many of them still here? A lot of them's pulling up and they're leaving. You may say you may not need them or want them, but I'll tell you what, that's what makes America what it is. Everybody has a chance to make it work. And if that's the case, I wish we could step forward, get it stopped, and you guys take care of it and run the city like we asked you to do. My business plan, I'd like to know when it's going to be addressed. That would be very nice. 6 weeks is a long time. I think it should have been taken care of before now. I shouldn't have to be up here bringing this back up again. On raising them prices for public works, are we sending them out of town to do the plan check?
Okay, well, that's the question I have to ask too.
Okay, well then the next question would be, why, if we're going to have to send them to an engineer to get them to pay, to get them drawn up to bring them here, why are we paying an engineer to check out an engineer? I mean, you're making us pay twice, and something's just not quite right here. I mean, these are coming to us stamped, pre-engineered, they're ready to go on. They're going to match our city criteria. If they write it down in the corner, this is to match all state and local building requirements, they have to adhere to them. And that's something, seriously, I wish we could get looked at, because I had 2 more people drop out. They said, we can't afford it. And that's not a good feeling for this city. Thank you.
Okay, your time has expired, but let me ask a couple of very quick questions, not of yourself, but where is this development in the, has the right people received it, sir? Oh, thank you.
Actually, I received a copy today, just before the meeting. We're planning to bring several development agreements to the council on August 14th.
Okay.
It has to be at a scheduled public hearing. So we have several that are ready to come to the council for review and hopefully action, and that will be included in that batch August 14th.
Thank you. And the other question is, this fee that we're hearing for plans check, is that a realistic, is that a real fee, or is it? exacerbated?
You'd have to see each project to find out what it is. But
Okay.
Our plan check fees are standard for our region. There's nothing oppressive about ours. And, they fit into the schedules the council has authorized, and we have attempted. We recently went through a process of checking the market to see what other engineers would charge, and we found out that our fees are actually very competitive. It's just an expensive process, and needs to be factored in before someone starts down the road on a project.
Thank you very much for those answers. Yes, sir.
Just
What-
real quick.
Oh.
Okay. The only problem I have, number one, on the paper, it was brought, and if we get the minutes of that meeting, you're going to say, sir, this is the first time I've seen it. That was 6 weeks ago.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
okay.
And the rest of it, we've got to get this under control. We're either going to grow it or we're not.
Mr. Stafford, thank you.
I have one thing to say to that. If we had a civil engineer with PE behind his name, we could get things done a lot quicker and we wouldn't have to send as much out. But we don't have a professional engineer assigned to this city working here. And that type of person would be able to sign off instead of sending it out to health engineering or whoever we send out to. We could do it here in-house.
Okay, any other public business from the floor?
So
Oh,
just
yeah,
to comment on the fees, we charge standard fees, and you won't find a county or city that does not review by any firm. They're required, as far as civils, to be signed off by a civil. We don't build or approve anything other than what meets code. Our job is not to design, it's just to review that they actually meet compliance. As far as the building plans, many months ago, and I can't tell you how many months ago, we brought 3 firms to use for plan check, and they work under our fee structure. They're not charging a fee outside of that, and we use standard development fees in the Green Book, which is a California publication of fees for building. So it's based on the size of the building, the construction type of the building, and those are standard across the state. We just use, like I said, and that was also approved, and that's the method of how we charge fees. There's no entity that's going to just take a set of plans stamped by an engineer and say, oh yeah, they're all to code. I can tell you they're not. They do only what you require them to do, so they will send you anything, and it's only us to do our due diligence to make sure they meet all the requirements. So the comment of submitting plans and why we have to have anybody look at them, I have never heard anything like that in my entire life.
Thank you very much, sir. And thanks for the reminder of the approval of the Green Book, because we had this discussion before.
Good evening, Al Hudson. Well, it's the first time for everything. Now, the city needs to take its foot off of the investor cultivators' throats. I've said it time and time again. Either we want to welcome this business or we don't, because we have a bunch of amateurs sitting here telling investors how to operate in their business, what they need and what they don't need. That's a bunch of crap. Either we tell them, come on in here, we'll work with you to get you up and running. We've got one cultivator, we have one hemp grower, and that brings me to the point right there. This Ron Smith has complained that the hemp grower has not been confirmed that it is hemp. That needs to be done because we're not getting any revenue whatsoever from the hemp growing, none. So we need to take a look at that. And that brings me to my next point, and that is this extension that Meister and Meister got on their property. That is an absolute disgrace. We went from 10,000 square foot buildings to 2,500 square foot buildings. We went from a specific performance to a general performance, meaning he can just about hold that property and get city extensions tying that property up from other people that have the resources to develop it. We need to pull it in, pull this contract in, and look at page 12, paragraph II. The buyer shall acquire all of the entitlements, including and approved and development plans for the project, any and all financing, if any. They're out here crying that there's problems. I'm doing an experiment to see how fast cannabis grows. They could do a cannabis grow and have a harvest well within the time limits that they have had these extensions, but yet they elect not to, and that costs we taxpayers and the city revenue. We need to hold their feet to the fire, give them a 30-day notice that this extension is no longer in place, and rewrite this and get it done and out of the way so that the city can start realizing revenue on the cannabis. Otherwise, we're just going to sit here and spit in the wind. The next item.
Time, Mayor.
Mr. Hudson, your time has expired.
Well, when do I get to talk to the council about some important issues? Because I sent each one of you an audit from the state auditor on the city of Compton.
I never received that, sir.
Well, what we need to do, what this council should be doing is look at the internal, the GOA, that's the Government Accounting Office's internal controls and management tool to review the departments publicly.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Mr. City Manager, what is the reason that these development plans take so long? Because you think yours has been there. We were there 2 months before you submitted yours 6 weeks ago, and then we submitted it again. We don't ask, we just go with a process. So can you explain that, please?
Well, in most cases, the projects have been in flux and they were not ready to come forward. And so that's they're starting to come together. People have more specifics about what they're able to do. The development agreements are for the properties where you're going to have multiple users on the same piece of property. And so it's like a planned unit development where you can bring in multiple things on one property. They're usually larger properties, and so we're getting ready to pull those together. They do require a public hearing, and so as time has been available, essentially I'm the only one that has the time to deal with the development agreements, and it's gotten we're getting there, and we'll have them come forward soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I want to ask you just real quick, did you get the report in an email format, a rather extensive one, about the testing specific to that from Dr. Jones?
No.
Okay. Maybe you should send that to you, because it's been tested.
That's been a problem because people have been taken off of the email listing.
It didn't come from the city. It's not.
Okay.
It's not a city email.
No, I did not receive it, and I don't know anybody that has.
Okay. I read it, but I saw a whole bunch of names on there. I thought yours was there. Well, I'll see if we can find it.
Okay, thank you.
That's been a while. And you know how email is these days. It drops off after so many. It just goes away.
Good evening, Mayor Wood, council, and staff. A couple of follow-up comments, real brief, with respect to development agreements. We've seen a copy of a draft. We're pleased to see the city working in that direction to have some collaboration between the city staff and the developers to get these projects moving forward and understand the parameters. And so we're hopeful that there'll be a lot of engagement between each proponent and the city that will result in these projects completed in reasonable terms. I can feedback to you one of my clients. I consult on multiple projects. One of my clients has approximately a $14 million project. That's the retail value. The construction costs are estimated to be about $7 million. He has gone through this process, maybe one of the first to be a completed full phase. I don't know, looking to break ground very soon. And I'll tell you exactly what he said. The engineer that is reviewing the plans, I think Craig knows recent conversations as well. The comment is death by paper cuts. So these projects are sent to the city's engineer, and it takes a while to receive comments, and there are extra charges. There are charges billed to the proponent that appear to be excessive, that appear is a key word, unnecessary, because if we had a city engineer on site here, perhaps there would be more responsiveness. Many decades ago, we used a term called fast track. Right now, we need fast track. We don't need slow track. We don't need these fees leaving the city. We need the economic development in the city, so let's get this on fast track. There was a period of time ago that an RFP went out for an engineer. I would recommend that we pursue that faithfully, that we follow that up faithfully, that we see what we can do to bring these projects forward on a fast track. Additionally, just a little bit of kudos to Mayor Wood primarily, who I know has been visiting various agencies and boards throughout Kern County, and I do believe that her involvement with our Supervisor Scrivener did bring about much engagement with others in Kern County to do the economic development East Kern diversification plan. And so I want to commend you for bringing that forward to Zach. I think you're aware that Kern Tax and I also mentioned to Zach many years ago our great needs for an economic development plan here in the city. So having said that, it looks very promising. I think you would agree, Mayor Wood. There is some potential for some front people, point persons, to actually develop mapping of all of our sites, shovel-ready sites, if any, that can go out to site selectors, as you know, and help grow our economy. And so thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. And just to let you know that much of that, what you just said, the tail end of that is just about finished. Thank you. Yes, sir.
What's the possibility of being able to bring on city engineer? Because Mr. Tuhig is correct. We have people out there who are ready to go. If this is holding everything up, we should take action and do something about it.
The first consideration is that the budget would have to include a position of city engineer. And so as we put together next year's budget, once we find out what next year's budget can be, that hopefully is one of the things we'll be able to recommend as included. We tested the waters, and in that process didn't come up with anyone that would have been worth talking to. But that doesn't mean if we try again, we won't. We'll continue, but at this point, we wouldn't have the authority to hire one anyway. So, but yeah, it's definitely on our list of positions that make sense to add to the organization. That will not eliminate the need for outside engineering services, because one person cannot handle all of the work themselves, but it will facilitate moving projects through our process, because there will be one person who can focus just on those issues instead of trying to manage the entire operation.
Well, you mentioned that some of these you've been working on, some of these plan developments, and some of them are probably more ready than others.
Correct.
So some of these, maybe if we had a city engineer, would be able to be expedited. Somebody pushed to the front because they're just better prepared than others. And then these other ones, maybe we can, since they're not there yet.
Yeah, the role of the city engineer would be to do both reviews and also manage the process.
But
to keep focus on it, keep things moving.
I've always mentioned a city engineer, a civil engineer with PE. So they are professional engineer, and they can sign off on things. When we go to engineering places, we have people who are professional engineers, and they sign off. So if we had one here, that engineer could sign off on projects that you brought or anybody here that they had. If they needed any specific help, they could go outside and get it. But they would be able to sign off on the majority of things right here in the city. And it would be a lot cheaper because we'd be paying them a salary, but all that other money that we're paying these outside agencies would be staying here in the city.
Yeah, at least the ones that are more advanced, be able to push forward.
Yeah, on the base we use professional engineers, and matter of fact, one of the musicians I played music with, he's a PE. So.
Yes, sir.
Russell Michael, California City. Yeah, I wanted to mention this Meister contract as well. It seems that this contract is 2.5 years old, or more than 2.5 years old. It's a performance contract, and I don't see any performance. Also, I think this contract should be brought back because on this contract you have, during the terms of this agreement, this is the last page, or not the last page, but page 24 of 35, number 35, it says, during the terms of this agreement, sellers shall not offer property or any interest therein for sale or lease to any other party, or negotiate, solicit, or entertain any offers. That's ridiculous. This city can't do anything, and it's been 2.5 years. So we have to look, you're crying for the people to vote yes because the city doesn't have any money. And here's money just sitting, and it's not being performed on. I don't see any buildings going up. We need to get this contract put back in place. Bring it back. If you still want to sell it to the guy same price, then bring it back. Get rid of this clause that you can't offer it to anybody else, because then he can just play it as long as he wants, as long as that clause is in there. So bring it back, remove the clause, and then offer it back to him for the same price and at the same terms. Doesn't matter. But we need to be able to put this property up for sale if they don't perform for another 2.5 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Alan Bell, Cal City. A question came to mind the other day about priorities. Do we have a list of priorities that the citizens could see of what we're doing to make things better, other than vote for the new tax, the old tax, whatever you want to call it? I'd like to, I don't want to congratulate him, but thank the police chief. It's getting more and more like Mayberry here all the time. It's going to be him only after a while, and we shouldn't allow that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public business from the floor?
Good evening, Mary Wadey speaking. I have a couple of questions, and I do have a statement, since it kind of ended with the city engineer. The city of Adelanto has a city engineer there at their site. I've been there, and I've asked, do they have one, and I also met him. And the fact that we have been paying $75,000 per month to Helt Engineering, which is over $1 million a year, and for at least the last 2, maybe 3 years, which could have paid for a new fire engine, I believe we can afford a city engineer. One of my first questions, it has to do with the city manager's information from the East Kern Economic Alliance. The process for the application for people who are interested in applying for one of those 3 positions regarding the Kern County representative for the areas of California City, Boron, Mojave, Roseman, Tehachapi, and Ridgecrest. When will that be opening up? Because I kind of missed that when I was there.
When we receive the notification, they're going to send us that information. We're going to blast it out everywhere. Okay. We'll email it. We'll have. I mean, to whoever we can. Somebody, I'm sure, will be happy to put it on social media multiple times, and they'll have some information here at City Hall on that. But we don't have that yet. I haven't received anything.
Okay, because
so I couldn't give you the exact date.
Okay, because I was thinking I heard maybe August 4th. I just wasn't sure. Have they made a date yet that they'll open?
I don't have any. I don't have that yet.
Okay. My next question.
One of the things to remember is that that's a county position, so that Kern County will be doing the hiring.
Okay.
Thank you for that too.
My second question has to do with the new prison. What is the address for the new prison, and where is it located exactly?
There is no new prison yet. And there is no address.
Okay. Now, that's not what I heard.
Oh, who'd you hear it from?
What here? In here.
No, you heard that there's you listen to what I said. CCA has gone forward with environmentals. There is no date for any of that. They've spent a lot of money on the environmentals. No address, no dates, nothing in stone.
Okay, I heard two different answers. In here, yes, I have. Next question is the new prison, the new CCA bringing up the new prison. So I know it's a private prison. The next question I have for you is, what is the California City's position as far as the, California becoming a sanctuary state?
We've already done something on that. We've already done a resolution on that.
Well, I wanted to know what the position is.
That we're not a sanctuary city.
Okay.
That was done. How long? Many months ago.
Well, I just wanted to clarify. Just asking a question. I'm allowed to do that. See if anything changed. What is the status of the Mountain Chief Cannabis and CHC Holding completion of their construction?
I don't know, but I did drive out there, and it's coming along.
Yeah, I've been out there last month, so I'm just wondering if they're finished or not.
Doesn't look like it, but they're moving along.
Okay. Also, last question: when will the addresses of the 4 cannabis businesses be posted?
I have no idea.
Waiting, because I know I asked about that last city council meeting.
I wouldn't know. That would be up to, I don't know whom, planning, building. If there's a project going forward, I think we understood hearing something that you have to get utilities and other things that have to be done. I'm not an expert in this.
Well, I understand about the utilities, but some of them have ground construction going on and some have brick construction going on. So I'm just wondering when their addresses will be posted, just like Alberto's address was posted.
I don't know. Can anyone answer that?
When they actually complete construction is when they officially get their business or their address. We give them the rough address so that people know where it's at, but it's not official until the business is finished and opens.
Okay, so when will they get their rough address? Because Alberto's had a rough address also before they put up a building. They were doing ground construction. That's why I'm asking. They were doing ground construction. They had a address there. So
typically, once they pull a permit, an address can be issued for delivery of materials and those types of products, but we usually don't officially send it off to enforcements and safety until they've actually are ready for business.
Thank you for that answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public business from the floor?
Is this thing working?
Yes, it is.
Patrick Bohannon. I'm going to change the subject. In October of 2014, we raised the water rates and the sewer rates. That money was supposed to be specifically so that we could get a loan. We hired a company to come in here, paid them good money to tell us where we need to be on our water and sewer rates, so that we could go and get a loan to fix our water lines. Now, I realize, and I give Mr. Platt all the kudos I can for what he's done with our water system. However, it's a temporary fix. We're still dealing with old junk water lines. We're still having blowouts. But the money that's been coming in our water department, you people are spending on other things, and that's all it was supposed to be for. And I want to know, and when your auditor comes, I want to find out just where all that money's been going, because you have collected for almost 4 years now good amounts of water and sewer money, and it hadn't gone to water and sewer. And if you need proof, I'll give it to you. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bohannon, can you answer that?
We paid back the loan. And actually, most of the money in the reserves is actually water and sewer department. So there was roughly, if I remember right, roughly about $7 million in the water fund, and it has been funding the water capital projects that the city has been also doing. So I don't know where else it's been going, but
Tribalsitis Park for one.
No, that was a grant actually for the park.
Came out of where it was to the water department.
Well, it didn't come out of our rates. Yes, sir. Did you want to say something?
As of our May financials, the Water Capital Improvement Fund has $9.3 million in it. So we have a substantial amount of money. It was 9.6, so we've only used 0.3 in the last 3 months that I can see. Thank you.
Probably about right based on the projects that you're working on, and then possibly the North Loop.
Just under $1 million, which is actually just material costs, which we'll revise those actually to include everything moving forward. And I include 5 or 6 actual projects. North Street is by far the largest one from an expense standpoint. I think the material loan on that was almost at $100,000.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anybody with any other public business from the floor? Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, City Council, with the Meister contract.
Could you say your name for the
I'm
tape?
sorry, Tammy, I always forget, Tammy Johnson.
Thank you, ma'am.
With the Meister contract, that is 2.5 years old, is that correct?
I'd have to look, to be honest with you. I think we've got some information here.
Have we been paid the $336,000 by them?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So it's just an idea, but because it's taking us such a long time to get the ball rolling with that, have we considered charging an extension fee to cover prospective taxes?
Are we talking about the property at the airport? Is this what we're talking about? Ma'am, is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I presented the council with a comprehensive report on all 3 of our outstanding purchase and sale agreements, and to give everybody an opportunity to review it in detail. There's a lot more to it than you've been told, and so I think if it comes back if the council wants to put on the August 14th, then we're prepared to share in detail what's gone on with not only that, but the other 2 purchase and sale agreements, where actual progress is being made in each of those cases. So we can report on that and go into detail at the next meeting.
Okay.
And we just received that report tonight because we weren't expecting it until tonight, so I can't answer.
That's all I had.
But thank you for your questions. Anyone else have any comments, public comments from the floor?
Charles Schaefer, California City. This question is for Jennifer Wood and Chuck McGuire. In January of 2016, Ms. Wood, Mr. McGuire, I placed Mr. Christian Bettenhausen under citizen's arrest. The 2 of you had objection to that. What part of my criminal complaint did you have objection to?
Well, first, if you place somebody under citizen's arrest, then law enforcement is required to respond to it, and they will go to wherever the situation is, whatever the location is. And they'll look at that, and they will determine whether or not enough meets the requirements for that violation of the law. And then they will determine yes or no. So I'm no longer law enforcement. I don't have that say-so.
So why did you interject before he was arrested?
I didn't interject that I recall of.
Well, it seems that the council has a problem with recall. Ms. Wood, why did you object to my criminal complaint against Mr. Christian Bettenhausen?
I would have to go back and review that, to be honest with you. That was when, did you say? That was in 2016?
Yes, ma'am. January?
Yeah.
I believe Hudson was present when I
And there,
was
I'm sure there were other
arrested,
people.
And, I believe you had me falsely arrested.
I didn't have anybody arrested.
Yes, you did.
No,
When
you were holding
asked-
on to the podium and your time had expired. You were
When?
actually hugging it. So your time
which
had
time?
expired.
Which time, Ms. Wood?
I don't know,
5
the several
times.
times.
You have arrested me from that.
I have
Yes.
not had you arrested any time.
Any time you have someone removed, that is arrest.
No.
I was detained in
No,
the
sir.
lobby.
No,
Lady,
sir.
I could not re-enter this room.
Did you go to court on that?
I can't get to court, Miss
There,
Wood,
you weren't arrested. You were not arrested.
because the charge was dismissible by Mr. Bettenhausen. Now, why did you have reason to object to me placing him under arrest?
I can't answer that right now. I don't know.
Well, Miss Wood, Mr. McGuire, I place you under citizen's arrest for obstruction of justice. I place Mr. Christian Bettenhausen under arrest for sedition and subversion of the California Patient Bill of Rights. Do you know what those are, Jennifer?
I do, because you've shown them to us before.
I've never showed them to you.
Yes, you have.
I've explained them to you. I have the right to choose whatever doctor I want. Whatever medical treatment that is permissible by the state of California, I can follow that physician's directions. 14-723 prevented that. It was a stop medical treatment order under duress, threat of loss of property. That is a crime, Miss Wood. And Mr. Bettenhausen is under arrest for 1 count, premeditated attempted homicide in the 2nd degree, negligence. 1 count, willful, intentional, and purposeful criminal endangerment of myself. And 1 count, criminal abuse of the elderly and or disabled by self, interfering with medical treatment. Miss Wood, you're under arrest.
Okay. So, so let me explain something. Something is coming. There's some clarity.
Her into custody.
First off, I want to tell you that that very night, Sergeant Blanton was in the back of the room and spoke with you and came out here and said you would not be stopped or prevented from going anywhere to get your medical cannabis. I remember that piece of it, but
I don't
you can't.
remember that piece of it because he said he might.
No.
M-I-G-H-T.
No.
And might means might not also.
No.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am. And
Okay.
that was not done in public.
Okay, sir, your time is. No, he came up to the podium.
Well, I
so
wasn't here.
You
Remember,
were.
I was kicked out.
No, you were here.
No, I wasn't. I was
Okay.
kicked out.
All right.
You're under arrest, Jennifer, and so are you, Chuck.
All right, time is up.
Sir, your time has long expired, and I would ask that you would peacefully take a seat.
Officer Shannon Hayes here.
I would like for you to peacefully
Mayor.
take a seat. Yes, sir?
Part for the benefit of tonight, I'm going to speak to Mr. Schaefer in the lobby. I'll accept his complaint and review what he has to say. Mr. McGuire is correct. There are situations where I must immediately take action, and other times I can review the matter before me, so that's what I'm going to do.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Stockwell, be on notice. California City is under tort by Charles Julius Schaefer and Dawn Schaefer. The crap you put her through, lady, you should be thrown in prison. What? I damn near took my life because of your criminal practice of law without a license. Well, delivery. Bettenhausen was supposed to put you in custody for practicing law without a license.
Mayor,
Giving
if it's
legal
okay, I'll go and
advice
do
that
that.
was
Sir,
criminal in nature
please.
for the intended
Thank you.
purpose of entrapment, Miss Wood.
Your time has expired. Please take a seat.
You're expired.
Sure
You're
I am.
hollow
today.
and shallow
Please
person.
take a seat.
You have
yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, that's
You
it.
are
That's
nothing.
Whew. Wow.
You will be under arrest, lady.
Ooh. Go with the chief.
Go ahead.
Anyway. Yeah. And this is why this is so much fun.
Anybody want to run for mayor?
Up there's the guy right there. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Seriously.
Madam Mayor, Council, Ron Smith. I'm a little concerned about Mr. Hudson's talk about experimenting with seeing how fast cannabis grows. I've seen him around the sign at our church. I thought that we were having, our grass was growing very well. I understand it probably is. So I may have to place Mr. Hudson under citizen's arrest myself for doing that. On a very serious note, I haven't heard anybody mention anything about voting. We've had a number of citizens in our town that admitted that they just forgot to vote the last time. And a week from today is a big day for our community. And it's a privilege that we have to live in the United States of America and to be able to exercise our vote. Just want to remind our citizens of that. I don't know who's listening tonight, but it's not a respectable thing when a 12-year-old girl is murdered if somebody knows information to not come forward, to come forward anonymously. But if you know information, a 12-year-old girl and an adult male is now in eternity, and I would encourage, if somebody's aware, to let the authorities know. Thank you, Madam.
Yeah, appreciate that too, sir. You mentioning that and the prior, more so the second. Even though voting is important, if people know things, they need to get out there and shake the trees. There are ways to contact PD anonymously, and if you look at your Nixles, they will give you those numbers and those ways to do that very thing. Thank you again. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Just a quick Keith Middleton. Just a quick comment on voting. City Hall is taking registration. The voting registrations right here at City Hall during normal business hours. Denise Hilliker has.
No, we don't take any more voter registration. All we do is we take ballots.
That's what I mean, ballots. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah. If anybody needs to register because they are not registered, the only place they can now go to is Bakersfield, because they will end up by having to vote provisionally, which is that day, but they do have to go to where the register of voters is. So now we'll accept any ballots. You can drop them off. They don't have to have a stamp on them. But and we are past the deadline for me to able to change your ballot into a vote by mail.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Keith. And thank you, Denise, for that update. Anyone else have any public business from the floor? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered routine and non-controversial and will be approved by one motion if no member of the council, staff, or public wishes to comment or ask questions. Public comments to be limited to 3 minutes. Roll call vote will be required for anyone that arrived late. I'm just letting you know that we have pulled CC2. It will be brought back to us in a future meeting. So tonight you have CC1, the approval of the city check register dated through July 18th, 2018. Of course, CC2 is gone. CC3, adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of California City calling for an election of the offices of mayor, 2 city council members, and treasurer, requesting the Board of Supervisors of the County of Kern to consolidate a general municipal election to be heard on Tuesday, November 6th. Moving on, hold on. Give me a second. I lost the page. Give me your second page. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And 2018, with a statewide general election to be held on the date pursuant to Section 10403 of the Elections Code. And then CC4 is Kern County Aging and Adult Services Cooling Center Professional Services Agreement. That doesn't cost anything to us, I understand. CC5, Police Department, proposed police jailer positions, and that's a request for 3 more. We already have one that's approved right now. Anyone from the public have any questions about CC 1 through 4? Thank you, sir. CC, forgive me. You're right. Thank you.
Good evening. Al Hudson again on the check register. Check number 103-136. That's to Jones and Mayer for $54,769.73. I have been an advocate for an in-house attorney for a long time. I contacted the Southwestern School of Law that has fire breathers that have been trained. It just so happens that the bar exam is this week, and the results will be available in November. I asked if they had the Scale students taking the bar, and they said yes. Scale, that's Southwest Conceptual Legal Education, wherein they get their JD in 2 years, and 1 year is spent in an apprenticeship program. And we could very well hire an in-house fresh attorney for substantially less than we are paying Jones and Mayer. My next item is this AML, check number 103169. As I understand it, they're doing the vetting on the cannabis. Well, son of a gun, last time their check was for $18,000, so that's $28,000 for plan checks in a month. We should.
Plan checks, sir.
Pardon?
It's not plan check.
Well, not plan. Well, it's incorrect terminology. It was for the vetting process, but still, the number doesn't change. It's still $28,000 for a month. We should be doing that in-house, and we should have these plans a whole lot less cumbersome on the applicants. We're not experts, and we're not investors. This is a city council, and you really I don't know of anyone here that is qualified to direct the operation of a corporation. So we need to get out of the way and let these businesses develop. The next item is check number 103149. That's for $17,666.63. That's to
Muni Temps.
Municipal temps.
That is.
How long are we going to do this? Because that's over $10,000 a month for a finance director and planning person. That is very, very substantial. We need to kind of look at that again. And there's another check on here that I just don't quite understand what it's all about. That's check number 103167. That's for $52,513.25. That's for a VCA on a plan check. What in the world is that about?
He's got you got that out. Hand it over to the. Thank you.
I mean, this check surpasses anything else ever gotten for a single plan check. We got to laugh at something.
I'm trying to find the building that it is, but it's a building. It's a plan check fee based upon a building. It's based upon value. So, yes. Go ahead, Craig. You can help out here.
Specifically, obviously, off the top of my head, which one that is, but that would be a bill for plan check review for building site plans, not civils, but the building plans. So I don't know if it's multiple plans that they've had, because we have sent them quite a number of actually building plans.
What it is the outstanding purchase order is $161,000, and these are bills against that for the month of June. So it would be for multiple plan checks.
The purchase order should contain more information. I mean, you guys probably need to put more fidelity in there so we can know what they are. I mean, I see two of you not knowing anything.
I can give you the addresses of the buildings if you want. It's 7840 Fernwood Avenue. 9121 California City Boulevard, 6300 Lindbergh. And the fees respectively are $45.33, $555, $1,850, and $44,928.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. And your time has expired.
Okay, well, I think that this check needs to be pulled while the council reviews everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else have any questions on the, consent calendar?
Just all of the plans that are checked are all the ones that we had 3 companies that actually we came to council to vet so we wouldn't sit on plans. So we had multiple people to send them to. They're all within the actual revenue that is collected under the actual green book and construction book. So we're not paying anything that we're not correcting. And it was so we're not sitting on plans for months so we could actually get them out faster. So we had 3 vetted that we could send them to. These are fees that are actually collected under the actual book that are assigned, and we send those out for review.
And this came to council. All 3 of them came to council for discussion and review and approval.
First 2 were actually pretty much of the same cost. The 3rd one was higher, and to my knowledge, we're just the VCA has enough staff that they're actually able to process the plans on time. And we're putting them out usually within several weeks. They make corrections. Those are sent back. As long as the builder or architect or engineer that's actually doing the plans holds those to review, and then they send them back with hopefully all those corrections in place.
Thank you very much. And sometimes it takes 2 trips too, just with anyone.
In the good world, sometimes they're 2 or 3. In a bad world, I've seen them come back a half a dozen times, or you send them back because they made none of the corrections and sent the plans back.
Right.
There's lots of things involved in this, and it really is how much they want their project to go through and how much they're going to put in it. Time is money, and we all understand that. And an engineer generally will only put in there what they think you're going to require. And if you don't require it, they're not going to put it in there. They don't all just volunteer to put everything in perfect. They see what they can get away with. And I'm not trying to put anybody down. And you can shake your head, but I have done this a long time, and I've seen good plans, and I've seen bad plans.
What you're saying is these investors are dishonest, so that's why I was shaking my head.
That's not what I'm saying. And I wouldn't say the investors are anything because they're not the ones drawing the plans. An engineer and architect is only going to put on the plans what they think is required. That's the same of projects, water projects, any project. They only put in there what is required.
And,
or what you require.
It doesn't have to be intentional.
No.
It could be a matter of competency.
And I didn't say
I can tell you that we've been through several architects, a couple of engineers, because this was beyond their scope. So it doesn't have to be intentional. It could just be not enough competency.
Thank you, gentlemen. Anyone else have any other anything on the consent calendar? Seeing none, we'll move up here. Gentlemen, any of you have any questions? You, sir? Me? All right. Seeing none, look for a motion that involves consent calendars 1, 3, 4, and 5. Either an approval motion or...
In reference to that one check that we were talking about, was that one going to be pulled by the request of the public or everything?
Does the council want to pull that check?
I can't see it, but,
Okay. Council, do you want to pull that check? That's for services we've already been paid and provided. We're talking about the VCA check?
Yeah, the one that the CM was answering about when he was going through the different...
I thought he gave enough detail for services that were already rendered.
Okay.
He gave specific addresses.
Okay, other than that, I'll make a motion. Not unless somebody else wants to...
No, I think that when the public asks like that, I think giving as Mr. Stockwell did, giving the addresses is what we should have done initially, so that people aren't confused and they know exactly what it's for.
That's a good point, yeah.
Okay. So I will second that motion.
Madam Clerk, would you roll call us, please?
Councilmember McGuire?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Stump?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gomez?
Yes.
Mayor Wood?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you. Moving on to the public hearing, I'm going to read the item, and I'm going to open the public hearing, but we're going to open and continue. But my understanding is there are still opportunities for people to speak. Am I correct? All right. So at this time, I'm going to, we have a public hearing on the initial study and negative declaration for zone change ZC 190, General Plan Amendment GPA 190, Public Works Director Platt. The public hearing is open and to be continued, but if you'd like to speak on that now, Mr. Platt, this would be the time.
Due to some corrections, we're just requesting you open the public hearing and continue the public hearing to August 8th, I believe, would be the first meeting.
14th.
14th is.
14th?
Yeah.
August 14th.
Okay. So I will do that, and we will open it to the public for any comments that they want to make at this time, because they have to be given an opportunity to speak. Yes, sir.
Because you've essentially tabled this, I'll be really brief. I'm not sure I'll be here on the 14th. I just want to bring comment on this. I may be here, but just in case, I'm at my cabin. And so we own the property across the highway, which is not in our jurisdiction. It's in the county jurisdiction. But we are in favor, obviously, of seeing that corridor zone changed and utilized. I brought testimony at planning as well as city council. We want to see policies that use our land. And so we want to be responsive to the applicant. If there is a potential land use on this site or any site in the city of California City, we are going to advocate on its behalf. We want the jobs here. We want the opportunities here. We want to reduce poverty. We want to increase income. We want to see our city prosper. So I recommend you push this approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else from the public have any comments on this particular zone change?
Patrick Bohan, my only thing I have to say is, it seems like we've done a lot of zone changing in this city for all this marijuana stuff. And we have plenty of land available in this city for that. So now, we're branching out here and here, and we're going all over the place. So I would hope that the council would stop and think about, do we need this out here? Do we need it over here? We've got plenty of land already for these people, So just to zone a change because somebody happens to own a piece of property, there's other land that they can come and buy and use. But it seems to me we're going to end up with pot farms all over the place. Thank you.
Yeah, this happens not
so
to be
know,
a cannabis project.
Yes, this is actually
Not a
commercial on Highway 14, so it was rezoned as C5.
It's not M1 or M2.
Well, I looked at the map, but I couldn't read all of it. But thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments on this before we come up here? Yes, sir.
Keith Middleton, I just want to make one comment on zone changes and Mr. Bohannon's remarks. When I moved here 29 plus years ago, I wanted the property next to mine, and I fought diligently to purchase it, so I'd have two properties next to each other. And the owner was adamant he wasn't going to sell. He was going to wait for a better price. Just because we have lots of land doesn't mean the people that own that land are willing to sell. Thank you.
Yes, and we all realize, everyone here realizes we have to do infill development. We've had, in the time that I've been on council, we've had various people come up with plans to do so. It's just a matter of getting it done, and hopefully after July 31st, we'll be able to do more with that. Anyone else from the public? Anyone? Okay, moving up here. Let's see. I kind of blew by the council questions, because I think that we're going to be
I just got one. What's the exact what's the exact location of this property?
I need to continue that. Right here in the
Because it says 4.5 again on this, north of CCB, and that puts it half a mile south of Phillips Road, and that's county. A half a mile south of Phillips Road, and that's county.
Yeah, that's basically, I believe, 4 miles to the from CCB to the actual border. It's inside of that. It's not 4.3. It's actually, I believe, 3 point something miles. It's
3.2, 3.5.
somewhere right in there.
Could we get those actual numbers in on the paperwork?
Actually, there is
Chuck,
something.
that's one of the reasons why I've.
Yeah, I did see that.
Okay, cool. And how far east, ballpark? Because it's on the east roadway edge? Yes. Okay.
Any other public? No. Okay, I'm going to ask for a motion.
I have a comment. It talks in there about access to that, and it has to be on a frontage road and 2 points. The people who are developing it understand that, right?
Yeah, to get freeway access, you better have a lot of money, and more than likely you will never get it off of 14, especially that close to an existing interchange.
Yeah, it said in there, it said it wouldn't. You'd have to use the frontage road, and hopefully they know that, and they don't try and come to us and say, hey.
Yeah, fortunately, well, we wouldn't have any jurisdiction absolutely over that at all, so that would strictly be the state and Caltrans. And I've been involved with the state and Caltrans on right-of-way accesses to a freeway or highway. They don't give them away anymore. They actually take them away. So to get one, you're not going to get one. Like they want ours really bad on 58 to disappear, those at-grade intersections.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to close public testimony.
Well, I had one more question. And the family that's listed there, or the person, are they the only owner, or are there other owners?
To my knowledge, they're the only owner, and they were notified that we moved the meeting to the next go-around. And there was actually a preliminary project submitted when project. So, but there's nothing pending as far as why we moved it back, but it was to present clean paper.
Okay, so we're going to continue this to August 14th unless there's anyone else wanting up here. All right, let's move on. And the next one you will be departing for in just a moment.
You did close the public hearing, and
we're not going to close it because we're continuing it.
We're just going to continue it until the 14th.
To the 14th.
Yes, August 14th. Everyone knows that, right? Okay. Continued business 1, amendments to cannabis business ordinances. City Manager Stockwell, but before we begin that.
I will recuse myself from my involvement as business owner and property owner in the cannabis business.
Thank you, sir. So we'll let him leave, and then we'll get going. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Well, I can see one error to begin with. The council meeting in August is the 14th, not the 12th.
Yeah. Okay,
First paragraph that I have there.
Right.
So the ordinance that was initially brought to the council, or the draft of an ordinance amendments that would eliminate the terminology of medical cannabis and bring the ordinance more into compliance with changes that have been made at the state level, as well as recommendations of how we should implement the ordinance in the city, was discussed by the council on June 12th and was referred to the Planning Commission, or the zoning portion would refer to the Planning Commission to be brought back after the Planning Commission had taken action. At their last meeting, they passed the recommendation to the council on the zoning portion of the ordinance on a 2-to-1 vote. After some confusion, the city attorney helped clarify that for the Planning Commission, it requires a majority, requires a quorum for them to conduct business. A quorum for the Planning Commission is 3. Consequently, a 2-to-1 vote does prevail in that circumstance. For the City Council, for motions that are not related to adopting ordinances or resolutions, could also be done on a 2-to-1 vote, but votes on ordinances and resolutions would require would require 3 votes to pass. So if 3 members of the council were present, you could meet, but the only actions that you could take would be those that didn't require 3 council members to approve. So we got that straightened out, and so the action of the Planning Commission was to approve the recommendation that has come to the council. That needs to be heard in a public hearing, and so that public hearing for the zoning portion was scheduled for the 14th. And so we won't discuss the zoning portion of that tonight. We're talking about the regulatory portions of the ordinance that were not to be reviewed by the Planning Commission, but are in the council's purview. And so in the draft that you have presented, there's a red line version that has, when we came to the council, you remember there was substantial strikeouts and additions. And as a result of the council meeting, there were items that were brought to the attention and needed to be added. Those are the items that you see currently either redlined or added in. So that incorporated into the ordinance were the things that the council did not question and that came forward, so that what we have is a cleaner ordinance, so that you can look at all that remains to be decided by the council are those items that you see that are redlined. And the ordinance that is attached, that is in the form that will be used for first reading, incorporates all those changes. So based upon any discussion that the council takes tonight, literally on any portion of the ordinance, but most specifically to those items that are highlighted as having changed, would be an appropriate motion would be to direct the staff to make those changes and introduce the ordinance on first reading to be brought back to the council on August 14th for second reading and adoption. So with that, I'm looking on, I can't believe we didn't number the pages again. So we're in section 5-6504. 5-6506, prohibition on transfer of cannabis business permits. The discussion there was related to the original language of the ordinance. The medical marijuana ordinance that was presented to the council was that transfers from one parcel number or one APN or address to another were handled administratively. When we brought it to the council felt that the transfers should be brought back to the council. My only comment on that continued to be the same. When we issue the original permit, after you go through the preliminary process, the issuance of the permit to that particular address is done administratively. It doesn't come to the council. So it seems if you're moving from one properly zoned parcel to another properly zoned parcel, then that brings an action back to the council that the council didn't exercise control on in the beginning. And so those ought to be consistent. So the council from the beginning has not held the location of the ordinance, or the business was left to staff to determine that it met the zoning requirements and all the positioning. And this transfer would simply require the same thing. If the transfer was to a property that is also properly zoned and meet all of the criteria of the ordinance, then it would be approved administratively. So that'd be one item for discussion. And then on the next page, it just simply helps to point out that what we're really asking the transferee to do is to apply for a new permit so that it can come before the council when prior to this a transfer did not require council action. Anytime there's a change in ownership, that requires approval by the council. As long as the change in ownership is less than 25% or less, it's approved administratively. Anything over 25% would require council action, and in most cases would result in a new application being made. Anyway, any questions on that?
Nope.
I have some questions on a lot of things. So I looked at this and thought about it, and there's changes, but I'll let you continue all the way through, and then I'll bring those up later.
Okay. So, 2, 3. And we're in 56901, second page, sub 56902, subparagraph F. The changes there is that would say that the cannabis business knows that the police chief and the city manager or his or designee 24 hours after discovering any of the following things that were amiss. And so that simply, that's what the council wanted to add at the last meeting. Mm-hmm. And that carries forward in the next page under subparagraph 1, where it deals with changing this council to manager, because the regulations promulgated were by the administratively, and they weren't the managers. The manager and chief of police present those to the council for adoption. And so that just clarifies what that action is. It doesn't change anything that's currently in place. And then starting in subparagraph 4G, we start eliminating the security regulations in favor of requiring all cannabis-related businesses to meet the criteria of the state, unless we make a specific finding of there needed to be a more stringent security regulations implemented there. Then that completes those changes that were brought up for independent discussion at the last meeting, and so we're prepared to go over any of those elements you'd like to discuss.
Okay, Council, you want to bring yours up first, or you want me to open this up to the public?
Open the public.
Okay. Does the public have any comments about any of these? There's actually, they're both kind of the same. It's just one's easier to read. Yes, sir.
Madam Mayor, Council, I have in front of me June 12th City Council amendments to cannabis business ordinances. Today, July 24th, amendments to cannabis business ordinances. Really concerned. I'm not understanding why the change that wanted to be made of striking churches and parks are not on the first reading. I don't see how this can be a first reading if we're not dealing with that. It cannot possibly be a first reading if that's not going to be brought up to the next meeting. Number 2, I don't see how that is treated as an amendment when I'm looking on page 18 of June 12th, and it was struck. It should be no closer, speaking of the cannabis business, it should be no closer than 1,000 feet from any parcel containing any of the following: school, so on and so forth. That was struck to 600. The 600 was the amendment. The 1,000 never changed. So the 1,000 feet going back to, that's not an amendment. The 600 feet would be an amendment. But then on the next page, on page, and it's much easier when they're numbered to be able to find this stuff.
Could you give the section? That would help.
The section.
He's referring to the zoning ordinance, which you don't have in front of you.
Oh, we don't have that in front of us.
But if we're going to be talking, this was presented in the same way, with the same heading, amendments to cannabis business ordinances, on June the 12th as today, amendments to cannabis business ordinances. And that would not be an amendment because that was already existing, the 1,000 feet. But then to have the churches and parks struck to 200 feet, that would be the amendment. It would not be an amendment to leave it alone. I don't see how this can be a first reading and it's going to be approved the next meeting when this is not part of it.
let me see if I can clear something up. What he's talking about is coming back to us on the 14th. This is a different document.
Correct.
That is coming back to us on the 14th.
Correct. But that will only get a first reading that's going to be approved.
No, but there will still be discussion, just like we have now. I'm sorry.
I may be able to help clarify this, because the question came up to me. There's two different sections of the city's municipal code which deals with marijuana. There's the regulatory section, which is what we're dealing with at this meeting. There's the zoning, which is the land use aspect. Land use requires a noticed public hearing. It's a more extensive process. To facilitate expediting this process, we were bringing the regulatory portion today so the council can address it. That's why the zoning stuff you're discussing or bringing up is not currently under discussion, because it's not being proposed. So there will be a public hearing and there will be a first reading of an ordinance at the next meeting, specifically addressing the zoning aspects.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And I'm sorry, I was remiss in saying this is not Christian. This is his brother Barron that's here with us tonight. But he's.
I don't know if he got Botox or something. Didn't know if he'd been to.
Oh,
But,
he'll tell him that.
Feel free.
They mess with each other. Yes, sir.
And then with the few, my time. I'm really shocked with. Again, we were promised robust security. We were promised that from day one. We were promised a number of things, but we were promised robust security. And as I'm looking down all that has been lined out here, this is not what was envisioned for our city. And I would plead with you, give us robust security. I know I think I had 27 seconds left, and I don't want to dishonor it, but that is major. There's been a lot of face-to-face communication with those that are opposed to marijuana, cannabis, adult use, medical use. There's been a lot of face-to-face, and this is not helping the trust issue by totally wiping out the security that was promised us. We weren't told it was going to be like the state. We were told it's going to be robust. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else have any comments on this?
Yes, good evening again, Al Hudson. I want to have to comment on our friendly adversary, Pastor Smith.
No, not this guy.
Not
Would
this-
you
not this time.
check your yes, sir.
What he needs to consider is the cost analysis for security. We have enough problems and delays without this, which has me going to talk about one of my favorite topics on the cannabis, or actually a new topic, and that is we should have a performance extension fee. So if anyone wants an extension to complete their project, a substantial fee should be imposed to offset any lost taxes. I think that is very, very important and should be amended, and the city ordinance should be amended to reflect that.
Okay, sir, that would be, I don't believe that would be this particular ordinance that would be impacted by
My
that.
time is running while you're talking.
Well, I'm just trying to say you're getting off the reservation. You're getting off the road.
Okay, well, I'm saying that this should be incorporated into this amendment to the a resolution. And the other thing that should be reconsidered, and that is we just don't have enough commercial buildings for the cannabis industry, so therefore we should permit outdoor cultivation within, or rather outside of the center city area so as to attract more cultivation and tax revenue. And I think that is it. Let's be business friendly instead of business chokehold.
Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else? That has not been up before. Yes, ma'am.
Catherine Efford, California City. I would like to assure the people of California City that when you talk about robust security, most people in this town, including you, Pastor, have never seen robust security. If you've been inside the workings of a major casino, that is robust security. Robust security is out there right now getting ready to build a cannabis indoor grow. Mr. McGuire, you went out there and saw it. Most people don't understand when you talk about putting up cameras like they have and having guards like they have. People are not protecting a $20,000 investment. They're protecting a $20 million investment. And I would encourage you to ask the growers to come out, or to ask the growers if you may come and see their security system. I would bet you money, unless you're some kind of an engineer, you won't even understand it. So robust security, oh yes, let me tell you, robust security. We should be so fortunate to have that kind of security here in City Hall. We couldn't afford it. I don't care if you took all the money from the parcel tax. We couldn't afford that kind of security. So I would encourage you, Pastor, and your party or congregation, if they want to see it, to ask for a tour. And you will get one. They won't turn you down. And when you come back, you'll say, I'm not really sure what I saw, and I'm not really sure I understand it, but I can tell you if I was going to do something that was not right or legal, I don't think I'd get away with it. So take the time and learn what real robust security is. The state of California doesn't really know. So they're not going to say, we want you to do this, 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 and this. They say, you make sure it's secure. That's their stand on it. And I would please plead with you to go and take a look at the kind of security and the money that these people have put into their security systems. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And you, okay.
Good evening again, DJ Tuig with respect to the cannabis ordinances. A couple of items to bring to your attention. One, the original so-called robust security measures were recommendations based upon a dinosaur standard when cannabis was illegal, and came out of the city of Oakland, as I recall, as admitted by HDL, and I believe Chief will acknowledge the same, having visited places that operated when cannabis was illegal. As a result of Prop 64, the industry's changed. Everything's changed. So therefore, you can't take the same formula pre-Prop 64 and apply it to post-Prop 64. Additionally, there are robust, high-grade security fences at these facilities. There are sally ports, gated access, access controls, etc., that further add to the security measures. And we've gone to great lengths in my firm to make sure that our fencing and security gates is high grade. I think there are substandard fences that has been pointed out here at City Council. I encourage staff to look at the substandard facilities, because what was also discussed in the regulations was a very high-grade security fence. As a matter of fact, Sergeant Blanton himself said the facilities would not be allowed to operate without commercial-grade security fencing. Additionally, with respect to the modifications in the ordinance, I concur that the land use is not here. We're very concerned as well about the land use. In the event I'm not here on the 14th, I support the $1,000 linear distance on the dispensaries. I was in favor of the industrial zone location for dispensaries. I will listen with great interest to any argument that a CUP is relevant for commercial. I think there are some legal consequences to disallowing dispensaries in commercial, so I think that should be looked at very carefully. I think there's some cases that may need to be looked at, case law. I just want to encourage City Council and staff. I spent a lot of time here with City Council and staff addressing economic policy. This is an innovative economic policy. We're changing the way we operate in the city. We're looking at what's possible, not what's been done before. We are leading the way in Kern County, which is quite extraordinary, and so California City is being looked at very carefully. I can tell you from personal experience, having spent morning till midnight the last 2 years in California City, addressing the economic opportunity here, that many folks have left California City because the regulations were too cumbersome. The lack of infrastructure as well, the capital cost. I'll finish. We need to make sure that these facilities are not over-regulated is critical. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. You mean 1,000 feet, not $1,000.
Did I say dollars?
You did. You got dollar signs going. So, okay, so we got the 1,000 feet. Thank you very much. Not a problem. You know, I've been reminded that Adelanto has no security for their cannabis. None. So, just a point.
But they have security guards. I mean, several of us went there. The chief went, and Councilman Paris, and
no, I'm just telling you that people
they had armed guards.
Changed.
They had armed guards.
They may have changed. Anyone else from the public before we move up here? Not yet. We haven't even talked yet. So just cool your buns. Coming up here, sir, we want to start from right to left, gentlemen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's go.
My reading glasses on here. It seems to me that the city has taken a careless view and stance that is not their business to control how private business should secure their daily cash and high-value products. Security is not about controlling how a private business secures their assets. Security is about the safety of the community and our residents. The presence of security guards is a proven deterrent to crime, not just at the service location, but surrounding areas as well. There are many considerations to take into account for the safety of the community and the cannabis. Consider an armed robbery situation. Bullets are fired. The bullets injure or kill innocent children nearby. What happened Sunday? Bullets will not stop at the end of the cannabis business. Consider a robbery situation and the suspect flees out the boulevard and crashes into a vehicle where a mother just picked up children from school, causing loss of life or injury to innocent people. Consider a robbery situation where suspects flee with the possibility of police in pursuit. The suspects commit a home invasion in order to hide. The possibility of innocent residents being killed, injured, or taken hostage. Consider robbery situations and police officers respond to the scene. The possibility of those officers being killed or injured is great. Also, those officers have been removed from being able to respond to the rest of the community. As the city is aware, the common response during a robbery is for people to dial 911. The police are mandated and must respond to 911 calls, now removing those officers from responding to other residential emergencies and placing officers in situations where they may be confronted with possibly multiple heavily armed persons. This is a huge risk on the already understaffed police department, sometimes only having 2 officers on duty and any backup approximately 30 minutes away. Another ill-guided concern is that some individuals in the city have brought forth is the suspicion that someone's friend or relative might be benefiting. If this were a real concern, then the city should remove all requirements from ordinances and just simply follow the state. The state may change requirements in the future and no longer require many other security features. Fencing requirements. Someone in the city might have a friend or relative that installs fences and might benefit. Cameras and alarms. Someone in the city might have a friend or relative that installs cameras. The final argument is that Cal City is a small town and doesn't have big city worries and crime. The chart below, and you haven't seen the chart, illustrates the crime rates of California City. California City is higher murder rate, rape, assault, burglary, rate per population than all 3 cities of Los Angeles, San Diego, and San Jose. Our crime is through the roof, and our officers are going from just call to call to call. And yet, we don't want any security in our, or we want the state requirements. And the state doesn't require anything for a grow, and only 2 officers at a dispensary. I have time and time where article after article, California officials say marijuana legalization is causing more violent crime. While California's recreational marijuana market has projected to rake in a whopping $5.1 billion in 2018, some parts of the state say the payoff is murder. In Sonoma County, which is around 100 miles outside of San Francisco, some officials are complaining that all this illegal weed business has done nothing to their community but spawn home invasions, violent crimes, robberies. It seems that the bad mama jamas from the East Coast are traveling across country with the sole intention of using the Golden State's legal marijuana status to run a racket of extreme thievery. These types of crimes have become common occurrences in Cloverdale, Santa Rosa, Sebastopol, and Petaluma. The goal of the criminal organizations, the report reads, is to get their hands on marijuana by any means necessary and then transport it back to the East Coast for sale on the black market. Sergeant Spencer Crum of the Sonoma County Sheriff's Department claims bodies have piled up as a result of this scheme. This is not the first time legal marijuana has been associated with an increase in violent crime. I can go over and over again, nonstop, where these people are coming in, they're taking the growers hostage, they're killing their security guards, and in one case, they were even torturing these people. And yet we don't want any guards here in California City. So G, which was retracted.
Section G.
Yes, so it's section 5-6902, security measures, where it says the minimum of 1 security guard is required at all times at each cannabis business and delivery. So the entire G all the way down was retracted, and then it says when more than 1 cannabis business dispensary is located adjacent to or in close proximity to another cannabis business or dispensary, they may present a joint security plan. The joint security plans or plans for the chief are one thing. The state of California says we don't need any guards. The city of California City, the residents here say we do. Why are we changing it? The medical marijuana stated to have these guards. I realize that 3 guards may be too much, but to take them all out is absurd. We're going to have our people killed, our officers killed. I've said it over and over again. The city is required. The council people right here need to look and say, are we going to have security? Are we going to allow the state to dictate to California City that no guards are required? I say we put G back in. We change G that is existing there to H. As far as our recreational grow, where's our fencing? Nothing in here says that they have to put up a fence. We should stick to our requirements. Medical marijuana said fencing. It should be a commercial grade fence. If it's 8 foot tall, it should have 9-gauge wire on it. It should be all Schedule 40. And yet our gates are just 16 gauge that can be pushed over by hand. G needs to come back. We need to place in here requirements for fencing for recreational marijuana. Nowhere in here says, when we put in the ordinance to begin with, twice the minimum wage or $22 an hour, and yet now it's been deleted. There's nowhere where I see it. We did that so that the citizens of California City could look. We had 150 people show up for jobs because they thought they were going to get a job that paid something better than minimum wage. And now there's nothing there. We have to have security. We have to place it as a city ordinance, not just say, let's meet the minimum standards of the state. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. The incident over the weekend, while gravely tragic in our community, I have to ask the chief, was that related to cannabis? I'm asking the chief. The chief should know. I'm not waiting for people in the audience to answer the question. He would know.
That one, no.
Okay. And prior to cannabis in our community, we had a very similar situation happen on Walpole, where we had CDCR come out, the Sheriff's Department, and everyone else help because of a drive-by shooting, and that was pre-cannabis. I understand what your concerns are, I really do, but to think that this is the only thing that would bring that kind of violence to our community is short-sighted. We've had this kind of violence in our community before. What we need for that is not in part of this discussion. This is about cannabis. Underwriters, the people that insure these facilities, are the organizations that are going to dictate what kind of security is needed. And there's biometrics, there's all kinds of things that can be done for this. I'm not a security expert. I'm not going to claim to be. And while I understand your concerns, you know, I'm not going to go much further in the parallel to this weekend because one had nothing to do with the other. But we've had violence in this community. And there's not to say that other communities have violence in their communities. Look at Riverside. Look at Bakersfield. Look at any number of places in California where they have a great deal of crime and it's not cannabis driven. It's just crime. I have to go back to the $22 an hour and tell you that that was for the cultivation, manufacturing, things specific directly to cannabis. It's sounding like that's automatically assumed that that would go into the security. Well, when you have a third-party security or you have someone else providing security, they're going to pay their employees, they're going to contract for any of these facilities, and they're going to pay what they pay their employees. So we haven't dictated third-party salaries before, and I'm not sure that we should be getting into that business now. When it comes to directly touching cannabis, that's where the $22 came up. Give me a second, too. My mouth's getting dry. So let me just conclude with saying, while I understand that, if you're putting fencing requirements, that brings some real curiosity and questions too, and bringing back the other requirements, and I don't know that any of our fences can be pushed over at this point. I don't know. Has anybody tried to push them over? Because I'm understanding that that wouldn't happen. They're fairly robust in the ones that are being built. I've been to one.
Talking about the gates, Mayor.
Okay, I went through a gate. I couldn't push it over.
Well,
I mean, I don't know where you're getting this, but I'm just saying that, you know, we keep harping on the beginning of this industry where we started learning how to do these things, and all these things are being corrected. We're moving forward. We're fixing. To suggest that anybody has to rip down a fence to put it back up would be ludicrous and very cost prohibitive, and might just take that person and run them away from continuing to do business.
Did I say to rip them down?
No, Mayor? I didn't say. No, I know. But you have mentioned before, when you brought this up at the prior council meeting, that they should be redone. So how would they redo them?
Real simple. You put a 2 and 5/8.
I'm not a fencing expert. Are you?
Well, I've spent 5 years working for Valley Fence.
Okay, so you're a fencing expert.
No.
Okay.
But I've done a lot of chain link fencing. I've talked to Joe Berrigan. Joe Berrigan had the solution. Put a 2 and 5/8 fence post, line post in between the 2-inch posts, and that would meet the requirement. These 16-gauge gates, it says right in our ordinance, Schedule 40, and yet they make them out of 16-gauge.
So here we go. We're having this conversation again.
That's right.
And we're going through, and I have a right to speak as well. Do you not recognize that? I mean, I know you don't, most of the time you don't, but I do. Stop. Really? I think that, well, because it's my turn to speak, sir.
Right. And I will wait.
And I will continue speaking.
All the time you do.
Anyway, I'm just saying to you that we keep having these same conversations, which are very curious in nature. Very curious to me. How we're going to mandate a lot of these things and dictate these things. So, ask yourself some questions. I'm done.
Let me answer her. Right here, article after article, automatic weapons, AR-15s. I was saying an AR-15 was used in this last incident that killed 2 people. Was it cannabis related? No. But time and time again, they're using automatic weapons, okay? That was a semi-automatic weapon, understand, okay? It was an AR-15. These guys are using semi and full automatic weapons. What I'm saying is provide the security so our police officers don't have to respond to these alarms.
Well, hold on. Now that you brought that up, if you have on-site security, that's your first line of defense.
That's right.
The second line of defense is your law enforcement if necessary. That's it.
Necessary. That's right.
Okay, we talked about security. I think that if you look in paragraph G, it talks about the chief of police making the determination. Now, I've been to some places where they have fancy camera systems and so on. Matter of fact, I was going to show you. This is my garage. This is live. There's no lights in my garage yet. You can see my 2 cars. You can see everything. You know, I'm into technology. So, I mean, tons of cameras at my house. So what these places need is, you can have all the cameras in the world, but if you don't have an UPS, which is uninterrupted power supply, I went by this guy, Joshua, who is partners with your 2 grandsons, and they were having power problems, and they were going offline and so on. Well, all it takes, you can have all the cameras in the world, which they have nice cameras, but if you have a power outage, say for a couple hours, then you have no security at all, because there's very few UPS that are going to go a couple hours. Most of them, like I said, go from 10 to 30 minutes. Also, the chief would be the one to, again, make that recommendation. He could say, no, this isn't adequate, you need guards here. And I think that, being the head law enforcement official in this city, you can make good determinations. Cameras, there's all kinds of cameras, as everybody knows. There's 1080p, there's 4K cameras, there's all kinds of things. But a lot of that, also, if you have off-site, like, say, going to the police station, as we saw in Desert Hot Springs, where the young lady who had a dispensary, remember she was saying her feed is directly to the police. You also have to rely on a good router and throughput. Spectrum here is shoddy. So there's a lot of things that, even though the technology is there and night vision cameras and so on, it's all there, but it's dependent upon a lot of things. A live person would alleviate that. A live person doesn't have to worry about a 1080p or a 4K camera. They don't have to worry about the throughput, the upload and the download, and they don't have to worry about anything. So there's pros and cons. The chief law enforcement officer of this city is sitting right over there. So I think that if we rely on him to look at it and say, no, you didn't follow, I don't think that meets the requirements. You need a more robust system. And then also, as Councilman Parrish pointed out, we need to really be cognizant of what our city laws say. If the laws say that I require this type of fence post, then we need to do it. Now, some of this is water under the bridge. The ones that are up now, we should talk to Barragan and Platt and others to make corrections, to make those viable now. But, just make corrections and fix them, but from now on proceed and make things the way that they should be or should have been initially. I have some other changes that I want to address. And those,
where was that change
specifically?
I'm sorry? Where was that change
That is in 5-6.902G, Golf.
And what is you're changing there?
Well, what I'm saying is that the chief of police should review the joint security plan, and upon his recommendation, if he deems it necessary that there needs to be more than just whatever they come up with, like say I put in 2 small cameras or whatever, he could say, no, that's not going to make it. And so I think the chief of police should be the determiner of what is necessary.
Well, that's what this says.
You understand?
Okay, so that's no change there. There's no change there.
Okay.
Okay.
The other things are, if you look in 5-6.501, it says the city manager will prepare the procedures which will govern the application process. I think that should be the city manager with council approval. It's
Which
not
paragraph? Sorry,
again,
so we can be with you.
Again, for the second time, 5-6.501 alpha.
Thank you.
And I think that should be changed to the city manager with council approval will prepare the procedures which will govern the application process. I think that involving the council will make it a level playing field for all people involved. I think that city manager by himself could come under influence from people to make it, I'm just saying it's possible. So I think that with the council's approval, the procedures I think will be more objective and will be better.
Did you hear that? No. What did you say? Okay. Well, I, for one, don't want to impugn the city manager or say anything. I'm sorry, wrong word, impugn. I don't want to assume that the city manager would be in any position of a 5-0 vote that we hired a man for to be on the take, or also to be giving special favors to certain people, because I think, as we know right now, he doesn't do that.
I didn't
and I think
say
that's
that.
Unfortunate.
I didn't say that. But I said, but the way I feel is that with council approval. So it's my prerogative to, just like you have things that you were saying that you don't like what Councilman Paris said, there are things that I don't like here. So that's how I would like to change that. And going down to paragraph delta of the same place with council via the city, it says the city. Who is the city? Is that the city council? Is that the city manager? Who is the city?
Let's look at the definitions.
Next thing is 5-6.503, Delta. The city manager or his designee is authorized, and that I say with council approval.
Okay, let's find out what city is too, so we're on that. If you go to M under Article 2 of definitions, city or City of California City means a City of California City, a California general law city. So how would you interpret that, Baron?
The question is whether that includes the council?
Yes.
When it refers to
A general law city, yes.
when it just says
Yes, I would interpret that to be a decision of the council.
Okay, thank you.
Good. So we already went over 5-6.501 alpha and delta, and 506.504, the city manager or his designee after council approval is authorized to make all decisions, and that continues. And going to 5-6.506, same thing. The city manager with council approval in Bravo says the city manager with council approval approves the transfer of the permit.
Just for a note for you, because you just skipped it, there's two 504s. 5-6.504. There's actually two that follow each other.
I see one.
5-6.502, and then it's 5-6.504, and then 5-6.503, then 5-6.504.
I don't know which one you're looking at. I see 5-6-503, 5-6-504, 5-6-505, 5-6-506.
I'm looking at the version that doesn't take an eye test to read, and it's 5-6-504, and then it goes to 5.6.505, and then it goes to 5-6.506. I'm not looking at the other one because it'll make you crazy.
Okay.
So this has all the same stuff there that this has. It's just easier to read. So maybe that got is not fixed there. I don't know.
So we just went over 5-6.504 Delta and 5-6.506 Bravo. And then the next one is appeal hearing. I think that if they appeal to the, that one's okay, I'm sorry. And then the last one is, the last one is 5-6701, and that should, Charlie, and that should be 1,000 feet. That's correct.
This is just for the notification. You want to notify 1,000 feet? Or this is a standard notification of the property owners, which is 300 feet. This is not saying that you're going to put a dispensary 300 feet away. This is only the notification.
It's notification only. Then that's the way.
Yeah, the hearing. Do 1,000 feet, you're going to have, I don't know what the mailer would possibly look like for that. It would be quite
It would
extensive.
be massive. So yeah, that's standard.
This is just standard.
Standard.
Well, I said 1,000 because there are people who might live nearby and they might complain, we never heard about this or whatever. Oh, I mean, okay, so you have up to, Only people within 300 feet?
You send it to
Yeah, okay.
everybody
Okay.
within that
All right.
notice.
Yes. Sorry. Okay, Councilman, you're up.
I never went to any of the facilities outside this city because, one, I don't care about outside this city. My concern is this city. I heard a lot of problems with the facilities over in Adelanto, that there was fire code violations and things of that nature. So to me, I removed that from the equation. I've been over here to the airport. I went to one company and looked at their stuff. And you talk about robust. And I am a hard charger when it comes to security. You've got, before you can even get to the product, you've had to go through 3 different types of security, which includes one person. And you're looking at a fence, one person, and then now you're looking at electrical that you have to get through, either by card, by thumb, or by fingerprint. It's insane. I was very impressed with this. I was impressed with their emergency equipment that they have in there. Do I think that there should be more? My personal belief, which does not reflect anybody else up here, is yes. One thing that I brought up to some of the companies is, and security is a major expense. That's just a fact of life. But I suggested, because there was 4 or 5 companies that were going to be in this one area, I said, why don't you do a co-op, which co-ops are illegal in the state of California. That's why you don't see them anymore. But for that phrase, why don't you guys get together and do a security thing? That way all your businesses are covered outside. And that does a couple of things. And one is it gives them their security for outside. And I'm going to tell you right now, I can't see how somebody can get inside those buildings. I can't. I'm not saying I'm right, but I can't see it. But if you have a company that maybe has a roving patrol in a car, and it's marked, it's going to make people pause. Do I want to try and go for this? And do I think that having security, visible security now, is that a good thing? Yes, it is, I feel. Do I know the numbers? I don't. That's why when we brought this up and the CM and I talked, and it was a very heated discussion, that the chief make the final determination. I've got to trust my chief. If he says, yeah, I want a couple more, then by God, then bring him on board. But if he says, yeah, I think we can get away with just this, this, and this, then we'll do with that. And that's the companies. This city is not to run those companies. We up here are supposed to set policy. That's what we do. We don't run the medical marijuana people. We set policy on how things are to be done, and then it's up to the city manager and staff to make it happen. So my personally, I don't have the answers for all of security. What I saw impressed the hell out of me, and including the fencing. If there is some fencing out there, it's a little substandard. Why not say, hey, folks, put this in, we'll give you a green light. But do I think some of that stuff needs to be put in the ordinance? Absolutely. Because we're setting policy and we're telling all the businesses, this is your standard. If you're going to be doing this, Because, I'm sorry, medical marijuana or recreational marijuana or cannabis or however you want to call it is not the same as Denny's, is not the same as General Dollar or Rite Aid. It's not the same. It is quite a bit different. And so, you know, when policies are set and ordinances are set or things are set, just because they're set doesn't set them in stone. It's for guidance. Okay, do we need to go a little bit stronger here on this point? Yes. Is my number one priority so far has been the safety of this community, especially dealing with cannabis, especially dealing when it gets to manufacturing, because it can turn ugly very fast. And so far, the companies that I have personally spoken to have not been going to the flammables for the extraction process. They're staying away from that. And I said, thank you so very much, because it can go boom very fast and people die. My concern is the safety of the population here, our citizens, myself. My concern is the employees that work there, because they're part of this community. They're going to be. I don't have all the answers. I wish I did, but I don't. What I've seen so far on this, my only two concerns that I have, and that's already in there, the one is that the police chief has the final say so as far as the security. If he thinks there should be more, because I've seen, like I said, I've seen a couple of the business parks. You can land a 747 in them bad boys and turn it around. They're huge. So do you think they need a little bit more? Yeah, maybe so, depending on what their camera system is. But if they have a camera system, I want to make sure that if power goes out, there's a backup there where they don't lose anything. You know, that is a concern of mine. But number one, my concern is not to run medical marijuana. If I'm going to do that, I'll get off the council and I'll go run somebody's business for medical marijuana. Not in a heartbeat. I would rather fall over dead, okay? That's my personal belief. But if I'm going to run a business that deals with medical marijuana, cannabis, whatever, then I'll go do it. While I'm sitting up here, my job is not to do that. My job is to set policy for this city and direct it. So that's all I got.
Thank you, and I agree with what you had to say. Each of these is going to be a case-by-case basis, depending on what the facility size, what's going to be accomplished there, and if we put everything hard in stone, then we could create an environment that's going to put revenue producers in another community producing that revenue somewhere else for somebody else and not us. And you wanted to say something?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, Mayor, members of the council, the regulations that you talk about on fencing and wages are contained in the policy that the council adopted at the beginning of this process, which we've been reviewing at the staff level, preparing to come back to the council. Those elements have not been removed from the recommendation that we're bringing forward. The things that have been taken out of it are the things that no longer apply because of changes in state statutes and procedures. And so that still is the standard. It will come back for the council to either reaffirm it or change it, but it hasn't been changed yet because the council hasn't changed it. Okay? The security regulations were not adopted by the council. They were put together by the police chief and never taken to the council for approval. And so they were, and the ordinance as it was put together in the beginning tasked the city manager with that responsibility. And so we've been working through that process. I've got to ask myself when I listen to some of the things that are being proposed here, what's really changed since 2016 when you adopted this ordinance to begin with?
Well, hardly anybody's here.
Say, what has changed within our organization? What's changed in our organization when the council tasked the city manager with the responsibility to promulgate and adopt and follow an issue was a different city manager. So apparently now with this city manager, the council no longer trusts this manager to make the decisions that were tasked to the former city manager. The current city manager is apparently susceptible to outside influence, but the police chief isn't. And so the police chief is tasked to make decisions and issue things without the approval of the city manager, even though he works for the city manager.
Well, that wasn't what was said, though.
No, but that's the way it's written now. What is being proposed here.
He goes and checks the thing out for the security,
Exactly.
then comes back and reports to you and say, these are my recommendations.
Yeah, but that's not what it says. And I think that's where you got to be clear is, you know, what are we really doing? Every time you require council approval, you add 2 to 4 weeks to the process of somebody moving forward in something that they need in their business. The reason we have a council manager form of government is so you can select someone who can implement your policies, not so that those every decision has to be coming back to the council. In every case where you've said, well, the city manager used to do this, but now we have to have the council approval, you might as well just eliminate city manager and say, these things require council approval. Because that's ultimately what you do by saying that, because the city manager, the only way the council can approve anything is by a vote of 3 members of the city council. And that can only happen in a noticed council meeting. And so all of these things that originally were tasked for the administration to handle, you're pulling back. And the only thing that's really changed in this process is who the person was that was tasked with those responsibilities before and who is tasked now. So if you've made an error and you put the wrong person in my seat, correct that. Don't burden the businesses with an unworkable process because you don't trust me. So maybe you ought to have the discussion you really want to have so that you can put together an ordinance that these folks can depend on, and it isn't caught up in whatever turmoil is going on in the relationship between the council and the manager.
Well, I've got to tell you that please don't lump me in that boat, because I'm not in that boat. And I could tell from the nuances of eye contact or who is trying to do that. And I think it's clear from anybody that's sitting in the audience can figure out who's trying to do that. So I'm not saying you're doing it, right? Did I say that? No, I didn't. I didn't say. Okay, you didn't see it. You didn't pick up the nuance, right? Okay, so, I mean, I trust you as 5 council members trusted you when we hired you for the 5-0 vote to do what needs to be done in this city. Now, if we haven't given, as a council, the proper direction to Mr. Stockwell, then maybe that's what we need to be doing. But the last thing we need to do is just to plug and play city managers until we figure out and get something that you think you're going to like. And in the meantime, let all of this progress go, because that's the wrong thing to do. So, you know, I don't expect everybody to agree with me. I don't expect everybody on this council to agree with me. It's just not going to happen. But I'll tell you this, I have trust in Mr. Stockwell. He's taken a situation that started before him, and we've crafted it forward with changes. We're micromanaging our city manager, is what we're doing.
There are reasons, and Mr. Stockwell knows, and I've had discussions with him on why I have, why I feel the way that I do, and I'll just leave it at that. And if he wants to have a dialogue after or later, some other date, I'll have that with him.
I'm happy to have the dialogue in public.
Have it in public?
Well, not on this agenda item, folks. Yeah. We'd have to agendize something.
It would have to be agendized.
Okay. Put it on the next.
Off the
put it on the next.
Well, we'll have information coming for that when we do the council agenda.
So if you could point out to the things that hamstring you from doing an adequate job, please point those out to us, and we can look at those one more time.
All of the items that Council Member Stump added city manager or city council to. Because in every case, those were tasks that were exclusively the province of the city manager when this ordinance was put together in 2016.
I wasn't here in 2016 when it was put together either.
Neither was I. So, Bob, in regards to 5-6501 subsection A, I have no problem with you writing all the necessary rules and regulations. When he says council approval, I want the people to be able to look at what you've written and say whether they concur with it or not. The only way we can do that is to bring it back to council so the people of California City can say whether they like it or not. It's that simple, you know.
You understand what an application process is? It's an application. You fill out blanks. It's available online for everybody to look at.
So
Everyone who
you
wants to
should
look
have-
at it knows what it is.
So you should have no problem with that then.
I disagree. And I can understand. I'm not going to micromanage the city manager.
Nope.
If we need to give him direction or guidance, that's what we do as a body. Not individually, as a body we do that. And right now, if some of this is going to create cumbersome for him to do and not be able to manage, I can guarantee you it's going to create a turmoil with the applicants for this. So, anyone else on council have something to say? Because there's a second call issue, and I want to make sure Mr. Hudson knows that we're going to do a second call here shortly, okay?
Coming to you, Al. Just a minute.
Okay. All right. Second call. 2 minutes, second call. Now open. Uh-oh.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Yeah, Al.
Okay.
Get up there, Al.
I'll flip a coin, heads or tails. Oh.
Come you're not going first then.
Okay, Al Hudson here. What I would, there's been a whole lot of discussion and ups and downs on this security mess. Just for your information, from the FBI reports, there's 4,000 bank robberies nationwide annually. There's 23 armed robberies nationally average. So we've had one of our banks here in town pack up and leave because of bank robbery. There was a
that was due to their insurance.
Okay, there was a stop and rob bank in Roseman.
Mm-hmm.
You know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Robbed on a regular basis. They've been closed up for years. We can't fear crime. We have to show that we will overcome it, but we can't overcome it at the cost of running businesses up and down. We can't do that. I personally have a granddaughter that works in a dispensary. Law enforcement, that was my father, my uncle, my son, and cousins, all high-ranking. They know the business of law enforcement, and so do I. So all of this stuff about security, we can't forget about that takeover bank robbery in the 90s in Los Angeles, where there was a big shootout and everything. We don't have that kind of stuff with dispensaries. Show me how many dispensaries have been robbed in Kern County.
They had one 3 months ago, I think, where 3 people were shot and killed.
Okay, that's
downtown Bakersfield.
That's downtown Bakersfield. Let's look at Los Angeles. We don't need. That was an illegal facility. So the legal facilities were not having this big fear that is being promoted. It just is not there when operated efficiently and properly.
Mayor.
We should not put a stranglehold. Now, with the city manager, I would strongly suggest that this council adopt the General Accounting Office's principles, guidelines, tool.
I want to help you here, but you're getting off the reservation with that particular document, and your 2 minutes have over expired.
I was listening to what Mr. Stockwell had.
Right, but you took care of your time, so
You did it right.
she did it right. Thank you for your comments.
Okay, but still, you all still need to study this.
Thank you.
That's what the state auditor uses.
Thank you, sir. Uh-oh. You got trumped again. Oh, another one.
I've
Yes,
known
sir.
Eddie long enough. For some of the concerns, not just me, a lot of people, that the city is getting into micromanaging the businesses coming to town. And there's also the flag raised that says, and tonight Don raised it, rightly so, Chicken Little, sky is falling. Is that the fear we want to live under? I don't want to. The council shouldn't either. This is a city manager. It's time that we just break loose, do what we think is right, and it may not be right. How are you going to know till you do it?
Thank you. And it's not in stone. That's why we have a republic in this country.
The guidelines. Mayor Wood, member of council, good evening. My name is Eddie Borna, California City. A couple of things I want to bring up. I do understand everybody has a concern regarding the security and those things. But we have to look at a little bit better at what we are securing for. First of all, these dispensaries, they don't need security for 3 months or 4 months on every growing time because there is nothing there to steal. That's number one. Number two, if the camera system put in there in place, these camera system, they have good camera system has a backup battery. This is something that the police department can say, you got to have a backup battery. That's it. That's all it is. That doesn't mean somebody's going to turn off the electricity. I am very much involved with the technology as well, as Councilman Trump knows. I work in a space shuttle.
Councilman Trump? Stop.
Donald Trump, oh my God. Listen, I already lost about 30 seconds. The other thing is, I know the country that they did this micromanagement, just like right now, we are strangling our capable city manager to do. First of all, is slowing down the process. It's already slow, it's going to slow it down. The country that they were trying to do this micromanagement, it was the Soviet Union. They failed. And we are going to fail if you're going to do this. Ladies and gentlemen, don't make a big deal out of it. I own property that they have this dispensary in there, and there's nothing happening down there. In comparison to all the banks there are more shooting and on those banks than this dispensary. Let's make it easier for the people to come to town. Let's make it easier. It's sufficient enough. Let's adopt whatever the state that say that we have to do. I thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, sir. Sorry for the 30-second thing. But if you would wait around, another subject, but would you wait around after the meeting and talk to Mr. Hudson about testing of the hemp?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, and that will hook you guys up. All right. Anyone else have a second call? 2 minutes.
DG looks at me. Catherine Effort, Madam Mayor, Council, and my fellow citizens. You want to kill business? Let me just tell you, I have a gentleman who rents part of my office for he's a financial advisor. I had to hold his hand because he was so disgusted with the hoops that this city put him through unnecessarily. I said, you're going to do it because I need you in this town. I don't care about anything else. I need you here. And he said, Catherine, this is ridiculous. I came to town. I bought a house. I love my house. I love everything about Cal City. But to do this, I said, just do it. Just do it. Now we're talking about the same thing with an industry that is not only going to give us income on sales tax, but you're talking about every fast food joint in that's franchising is going to want to be here. every major company that has to service the cannabis industry is going to want to be here. They're now bottling CBD water. That's a bottling plant. Don't tie Mr. Stockwell's hands. Either he's a good manager and he's capable of doing it and move this stuff through, or we're going to kill the business, period. You cannot micromanage everybody's business in this town. And to ask people in the audience what their opinion of his procedures are is the most asinine thing I've ever heard in my life. I used to be paid big money to lay out procedures for a company, and they would put them in place, and if it didn't work after 6 months, they'd call me and say, we paid you $50,000 for those procedures. You better come back and make sure they work. And we're paying him to put procedures in place that will move this stuff from point A to point B and put these guys making money. That's what makes our money for the city. And you want to tie his hands? Think about that.
Thank you very much. Okay, now this is your second call. No, go ahead.
Nothing really new with respect, just echoing these comments, and then also to refresh your consideration of the fencing requirements. We've done a few canna fences in California City. They are superior. They're commercial grade, and we want you to know there's a difference between a residential fence and a commercial fence. And so there are some substandard fences, and they will blow down. I was just commenting to member here of the audience, if there's any debris in the field and it gets up against that fence and you get one of those strong gusts, i.e. 100 miles an hour, that fence is coming down. So don't be persuaded that fences don't come down. They do. I've seen. With respect to the fencing requirements, the initial regulations are robust. In fact, they have the requirement for commercial grade security fencing. There's a linear distance on the post, and so if you have the privacy fabric with the 130 mile an hour winds, they've got to be beefier. They've got to be 2 3/8 line posts, 6 feet apart per engineering. If it's just chain link, it's 10 feet apart, 2 3/8 line post. If you're out in the field and they're not, they are substandard. They do not meet the regulations. That's a fact. With respect to the comments about micromanaging, I can tell you that I've spent a lot of time in City Hall working for various projects, and I've never worked with a city manager that has more fairness, more competency in what he's trying to achieve to help the city go forward, particularly with economic growth. And so I don't see the history in the past of success. I don't see really any success on scale in the past. But I have seen progress, and I have seen a working relationship with businesses that I find to be very reasonable. And the people that I associate with find Mr. Stockwell very reasonable. And I think that
Mayor,
if he's giving you these recommendations, I would ask that you adopt these recommendations.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And yes, noted on the fences. Thank you.
And I just wanted to say one thing on the fences. The gentleman who everybody is saying built a substandard fence, he built my fence, and my fence is phenomenal. He built it 7 years ago. However, the regulation says one thing, and the regulation should be followed. But we've had really strong winds. My fence is as straight as the day that he built it. It's well made. But I guess it's residential, and commercial is thicker. So, but my fence will stand up against hurricanes probably.
And we should also be careful not to mention businesses specifically or call out specific businesses. It's not ethical for us to do that. Yeah, you got to go with the regulations, not cherry pick who you want to go with. It's just not, because it could be you one day. You never know. Okay. Anyone else have a second call? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Pastor Belton. I've been around the world, and I thank God for these men and women that they who serving. And you know, that's what makes a council strong. When every councilman have their opinion, that's what makes it strong. It gives you a chance to think, slows it down. That's not alchemy ourselves. let's come to a conclusion. Listen to each other. Don't just say, but think about it. He had a problem, he has a problem, he has a problem. Let's talk about it and come to one thing. Just what we're going to do, and then do it. But don't fight among yourselves. Right now we have a problem in Washington because nobody listen to you. Listen to one another. And together God will make you strong that you can do what's right tonight. In Jesus' name, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so are there no more second callers? Okay, let's move back up here. Let me just throw something out there. After listening to what you had to say, and what you had to say, and what you have to say, and also what Mr. Stockwell has to say, it's just my opinion that we should work with Mr. Stockwell to make this what is the most effective thing without delaying, the most effective document, without delaying decisions every 2 to 3 weeks. So if what you would like to do is to represent something to us on some of the changes that have been made, not maybe tonight, but in the next reading, we're going to have to go through this again. Am I correct? Right?
Yeah.
So would you please do that for us, and we will talk about these. Councilmember Stumpf would like to take a 2-minute break, if that's
fine with me.
And then we come back. Okay?
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
With the changes that hamstring him, things that reduce the hamstring, you understand what I'm saying, right? Okay, that's what I want to see.
I'm doing fine. I'll take a picture up here. We see, all we do is we see when you come back. It just circles. Circles. No.
There you go. All right, cool. That's a good one. Oh, there's a good one.
Real simple. I hope you're not.
I'm taking care of the other one now.
Let me know. That's
He's still at the house.
Thank you.
He's the one that takes some more work. He's off oxygen now, though, for a year and change, so he's still on the walker end. We're not doing anything with this. It's not an action item. We just need to get through this so we can get out of here.
Lord.
Well, this codified is essential. This has it the way that so if they were to introduce this on first reading, and then I would bring that comment on this, then it gets us on the same page. And that way that we're talking about a specific place. So this on first reading.
If they do end up making changes, you'd either have to do a second reading, it has to be the exact same as the second reading. But they could, you could do a first reading and change ordinance at the same time you do a second reading. Yeah.
Which we're not in a hurry. It needs to be done right.
I think this ordinance, the chief, you have discretion to deny it and do it. The section requires them to have adequate securities and comply with all the provisions. They have to have a security plan. If they
and that's the way it should be. So see in the beginning, see, they didn't change. Who issues the permit to begin? But if somebody wants to transfer that permit to that location to another permitted location, and that's what they're not very good at what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is ask you a question, but they left some things in. So that's the issue.
It's always a pleasure to see you. I just spoke with your wife.
Yeah, I just.
Is some good things to go home?
You betcha.
Is that your Christian brother?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, we work at the same firm. We have different clients, but he asked me to cover tonight because I couldn't be here. Yeah, he's a great brother too.
Remind me of my brother and I. You are bigger than a Christian. Me too, I'm bigger than all my brother. He said, what happened? We ate the same food. But I'm wider.
Yeah.
Both sides. East side, that side. Just as handsome as he is. Please give my regard to him. Say Dr. Warner, say hello to him. He's a good man. Very good man.
Okay, let's take our seats. Everyone, please. All righty.
So what?
Everyone, please take your seats. We're back. Okay, so we've already had the second call. It's come back up here. I've already made my recommendations. That's up to council. They may agree or disagree. But specifically what I asked, and specifically what Barron asked me to clarify on, was to remove the hamstring items that we might have put in place because of the fact that we hired this man, we trust this man, until something devastating, which will never happen. You can never say never. But I believe in his constitution, I believe in his integrity, and I believe that in listening to him, and DJ can also clarify this, and how he represents our city in the economic development world. He's very pro-California City, and he wants us to succeed. He's the man that has the long view that we're all waiting to see happen. So with that, I have asked, my suggestion is for him to return these things to, I don't think you're going to change everything in here, Bob. I don't see you changing everything we change, but I think you need to bring back to us, because all of us will have that opportunity to talk about these things the next meeting. Okay?
Then I think the best action would be to continue this to the August 14th meeting.
Then let's do that.
And then that would possibly be the time for the first reading of an ordinance in that form.
Okay. Then if that is, if that's something that the council is amenable to, please let me hear from you. Sir? We're not voting on it, but just, you know.
I'm agreeable.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
I would prefer to have approved it tonight.
No, I
but-
get that. But let's just take the ambiguity out of it. He
Yeah.
will bring this back, and we will deal with the first reading at the next meeting. No, I get that. But you know what? If I don't do this, what kind of vote do we get? Yeah, it does matter.
It does matter because if we're spinning our wheels, and let's say it's a split vote, then what have we accomplished? Nothing. This way we have the ability to move forward. It might be 2 weeks more.
And by the way, people are still applying.
Yeah.
We're still getting things done. Projects are being reviewed.
This is driving me crazy
It drives
just
us all
as much as you. And I don't like the industry, but I'm trying to push for it.
I know.
Well,
we
can't. We're gonna table it and bring
We're
it
going to table
forward.
it, bring it back. We're going to continue this, actually, not
Action,
table it.
yes.
We're continuing it. All right, so let's bring Mayor Pro Tem Gomez back.
Oh, Ed.
Here he comes. Chappy, 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 chappy.
Oh, Carlos, you're on.
Do I get to chime in?
Yes, you
No. No, in just a
do.
moment.
No, you
will.
get 30 seconds.
Okay, we're moving into council agenda. This portion of the meeting is reserved for council members to present information, announcements, and items that have come to their attention. The Brown Act precludes council, staff, or public discussion. Short staff responses are appropriate. The council will take no formal action. A council member may request the city to calendar an item for consideration at a future meeting or refer an item to staff. Councilman Paris.
Bob, I want to thank you for bringing the successor agency information to us. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Sorry, Councilman Stump.
I had a good discussion with the mayor when we had our break. I have to look at things different. She pointed out her point of view. I pointed out mine, and there's things for me to think about. So, again, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Councilman McGuire.
First of all, I want to thank all our first responders for Sunday. They rock. You guys did an incredible job, and thank you so very much. To Public Works, you guys keep plowing along, trying to get the road done and get water lines laid. And I know it's a pain in the butt, but thank you so very much to everybody who works at City Hall. Thank you so very, very much. It's been a long road on this, and hopefully, come the 14th, we are going to move forward. I'm done. I'm tired of it. It's time to move forward. That is our responsibility now. Also, the other thing I got to say is come the 31st, please get out there and vote. I'm not going to tell you how to vote. That would be inappropriate on my part. But if you want to know how I voted, I'll tell you after we get outside. That's it.
Is that it?
That's it for
All
me.
right, Mayor Pro Tem Gomez.
I want to thank everyone for coming out, and especially those who come out on every second and fourth Tuesday. More people should be out here. I want to thank our public safety. Thank you guys, because bad things happen, and you guys are the first ones up there facing it. And I know the city staff is operating shorthanded overall, and we're hopefully things will get better once we get everything else underway.
Thank you very much. I want to echo what was said up here tonight. We really appreciate what you do. We understand that there's long hours and you're dealing with threadbare, thin resources half the time. You know, it's important that you exercise your right to determine how this community will look after July 31st. So get out there and vote. If you know people that need to get to the polls, and they don't have a ride, call me, 760-514-2908. That cell phone will be changed 30 days after I'm off this. But until that time, that would be the number you would call. And there are many, many, many other people, as Catherine will tell you, in this community that are willing to offer rides. And yeah, 5. Okay, 6. If I'm in that group, that's 5. If me, it's 6, and there are still others that are interested in this. So I can seat 6. So just to see if you're a group and you have to go vote, that will be it. It's important for us to vote on how we want our community to look into the future. And I want to thank Bob and somewhat apologize for some of the keel hauling, leeching, and bloodletting that seems to go to anybody that sits in a city manager's position. But he hasn't been here so very long that we can blame him for a lot of the ills that have transpired over 30, 40, 50 years. And we are now moving forward. We 5-0'd him in, and I think we understand that we need to give him an opportunity before you want to change horses. Give him an opportunity to succeed, because I believe he will. And the last thing, I want to thank you for all the offers of bail that have come in tonight. I'll be talking with the chief to see if I need those. But thank you very much. And thank you for showing up, and have a good night.
I'll make that motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
I don't know all the details. I gotta go.